Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. How y'all doing? Friday night, it's our final show before our 2-week live shutdown. So please, please, please remember, we're not going to be here. Well, maybe in Technicolor and other, what do we call that? Replays, network replays. We may be there, but we're actually working. We're working to make this better behind the scenes for all of you. So that's what we are going to do. John Kachuba is our guest tonight on the show. Why are we having him here? I could tell you why. Because we are going to be doing a show on Shapeshifters tonight. What's it all about? What's going on with it? And let's see it happen. John will be here momentarily. But first, we get to say hello to each and every one of you, including Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a gold medal tonight. Race fan in the silver medal position, and SJ with the bronze. All right, let us continue on. We have Radio Wendigo in the chat room. Radio Wendigo will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Dragonfly, Mama Catherine. Mwah! I love you, my dear. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful night. Little Timmy in the backwoods is here. Actually, he's not in the backwoods today. He's back behind the screen here. He's right behind the screen, right there. All right. Yes. And the lovely and talented Mrs. SOR is here as well. She's hanging on out. I don't know for how long. Maybe a couple minutes. We should get her a chair. Why not? Necessary Dialogue, Kitty Cattywhack, how you doing? Good to see you. Millennium, my man, give us an update on how your mullet's doing, because I love your hair, man. Love your hair. Marty Burback and Deanna Ann, thanks for coming on in. Human Carl is here, a great veteran of the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. We love you. W. David Page, Richard Minnick, Eternity Eternal, nice to see you. Noble Patrick, Pam Harris, and Flat Six. Good to see you all. Christine Lynn, Gay Morgan in Australia. Gay Morgan will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Polly Rotterman, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, Operation Shutdown. Good to see you all. And Marty Burback, thank you for kicking off the super chat tonight, my man. Very much appreciate your love and support of SOR. It's a great way to support what we do nightly, so thank you very much. Hi, Vanessa. Algaray over on Twitch. Yep, he did 1,286 jumping jacks in 6.5 minutes to warm up for this show. Algaray over on Twitch, thank you for your commitment to SOR. Aloha, Dave. Nice to see you. How's Mexico doing? Purple-haired Pixie Lara, thank you for coming on in. Sim Life, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for coming on in. As we scroll on down, there's Cryptid Search. Welcome to SOR Chat. Who to you? He didn't say hi. He misspelled it. H-U. So who? Cryptid Research? Who? All right, continuing on with our roll call. There's Digger Dog. How you doing? Heidi Pop. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. John Temperine, Road Flare. How you guys doing? As we continue on with the roll call. And Gay Morgan says, yep, I'll be using my portal to sign those autographs. Absolutely. Use that portal. Use it wisely, too, because, if you use it unwisely, weird things may happen. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very glad to have you all here as we talk Shapeshifters with author and researcher John Kachuba. Coming up momentarily, we are in roll call right now, prepping for tonight's show. Y2K2MI, how you doing? From the great state of Michigan. Yeah, great state of Michigan. Question is, are you a Spartan or are you a Wolverine? Red Storm, how are you? J Truth Seeker, good to see you. Knight Rider, thanks for coming on in. What's up, Woo-Poo? How you doing? Of course they are watching. They're always watching. Super Chat is open. Wonderful way to support what we do on this show. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. You can wear our stuff and be proud of actually wearing it in public and not just to the local garage sale, the flea market, mowing your lawn, painting your house, taking the garbage to the dump. Throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're getting into a fascinating show tonight. We don't do this topic often, but I'm glad John Kachuba is here to discuss shape-shifting. Shapeshifters are people who could mutate themselves. Among us right now, we'll find out from John here momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton will kick things off with another creepy story. Tim James is here with another UFO report. I'll tell you, heading into tonight's show, my eyes are killing me. Now, you won't see that on Radioland, but I actually am going to put drops in my eyes because about an hour south of us, there's a massive, massive forest fire burning away. And instead of bringing that smoke south, which it normally does, no, this one's decided to blow the smoke north. So the entire studio smells like forest fire smoke right now, or campfire. It's good if you have marshmallows and you're in control of it. It's just not good when nature is taking over and kind of burning the hell out of everything. Doesn't work well that way. So we're going to get to that. But that's neither here nor there because forest fires be damned. We have the woo here for you. And we're going to bring it to you. As John Kachuba is an award-winning author of 13 books. His most recent book is The Bottle Conjurer, an historical fantasy novel set in the 18th century England. Haycorn Smith and the Castle Ghost, and a paranormal novel for middle-grade readers set in the haunted Chateau La Roche in Loveland, Ohio. See how I pronounced the French part there? Chateau La Roche. Love it. Other fictions include Dark Entry, a paranormal novel, and The Savage Apostle, historical fiction. But it's his most recent nonfiction work, Shapeshifters. A History was published in June 2019, was a finalist in Horror Writers Association Bram Stoker Award for Superior Achievement in Nonfiction. Several other works of nonfiction are about ghosts and the paranormal, humor writing, and occupational safety and health. John hasn't been on this show literally in years. Years! But we got him back. Here he is. John Kachuba, thank you for coming back on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. I'm going to start off by saying our radio audience can't see this, but you got a great beard and hair combination going on tonight. That is looking tight, my friend.
Well, thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me back on. I didn't have all this stuff years ago when I was on the show, but it was a COVID beard. I was locked up. I said, well, I'm not going to shave anymore. And I kept it.
Well, it looks good, man. It looks
thanks.
really good. How you been? I mean, you've obviously been putting pen to paper quite a bit here, or I guess today's saying, to keep up with the kids. We have to, because they don't know what a pen or paper is anymore.
Right.
Okay, I guess we have to say fingers to the keyboard.
Right.
How you been doing? How much you been writing?
I've been doing good, and I'm busy, as you mentioned. Not only Bottle Conjurer is my latest book, but I'm working on a sequel to that now. Working on some more kids' books. So I've been staying busy. I've been doing a lot of promotion. So been out there at libraries and universities and conferences, and it's been good.
You are somebody who loves to write about the weird and strange, the supernatural, the paranormal, both in fiction and nonfiction. Why do you love this topic so much?
That's a good question. I have a couple of different answers. One is that I grew up in New England. I grew up in Connecticut. And growing up there, I was surrounded by, cemeteries from the 18th century, heard all the legends and lore of, Native Americans that were there. But of course, New England, I hear about witches and ghosts and hauntings. And I was just always really interested in that. And so, I used to read all those books when I was a kid. I used to write my own little short stories about that kind of stuff going on. But I always really had a strong interest in that, as well as sort of the real history underlying a lot of these stories. So that was one thing. But the other thing, too, though, is over the years, I've been sort of on my own personal, without making it sound so grandiose, but kind of my own spiritual quest as to what I believe in terms of, spirituality, metaphysics, and that kind of thing. And so the paranormal has a strong role in there, a strong place in there. And I've been kind of weaving that into sort of my spiritual beliefs too, as I've been getting older. So, those things are what's gotten me going, I guess.
Before we get too deep into Shapeshifters at the bottom of the hour here, you're somebody who has investigated a lot of stories, a lot of folklore, a lot of legend, a lot of town hall type of get-togethers saying what's happening in our town and people shaking their fists at that. Is there a story out there that you have covered or written about, or maybe you haven't yet, you're thinking about it, that really stands out to you that you really need to talk about a little bit more?
So that's a question I've never had asked, Dave. So I don't have a real quick answer for that. I know there's been a lot of interesting stories that I've heard about and uncovered. I think part of my travels have been recently in Asia and Southeast Asia, doing some research there on different things. And I'm very taken with some of the stories that I hear from various countries out there that are very similar in nature. Not necessarily shapeshifters, but there's sort of common ghost stories that I hear. And they're so different than the stories we get here in North America about ghosts. And I'm intrigued by what they're about, what they indicate for that for those cultures, why they have those types of ghosts and what they believe in there. So I'm exploring that a little bit more. I'm not sure it's a direct answer to your question, but I'm sort of taking that tangent. And in fact, in conjunction with that, I've been reading a lot of fiction that's coming out of Japan relative to paranormal stuff. And it's really interesting, much different than our sort of version of the paranormal.
Why is there a difference? How is there a difference?
Well, so for one thing, when we have ghosts here in North America, I hate to say it, they don't really seem to do anything. We go into a place that's haunted and we say, oh, I see an apparition or something. And we try to make contact with it. And sometimes we can do it through various devices or whatever. But there's not much of a story behind that in terms of what those ghosts are able to do and how they actually interact with us. In Japanese culture, ghosts most of the time come back. And I'm saying specifically Japanese. I'm finding this also similar in other countries in Southeast Asia. Like, I was in Cambodia and Vietnam and Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Malaysia, as well. All those areas. But the Japanese primarily, they have such a rich ghost culture, and theirs is all about revenge. That, if you think of movies like The Ring and some of these other Japanese horror movies, they kind of hit that. So what you get in a lot of their stories is a ghost that's come back to enact some revenge on somebody. And they usually do it. They're usually bloody, violent ghosts, which we don't really have in this country other than, sometimes in movies. But typical ghost lore here is not really, you don't really have ghosts, killing people or enacting, mayhem and violence, really. But that happens in Asian cultures a lot. In Vietnam, it's interesting because there the culture is so strong, the belief in ghosts is so strong that it's become it's not a religious thing per se. Well, I guess maybe it is. But one of their beliefs is that if you die and you're not brought back to the place where you lived, your hometown, for proper burial, you roam the earth forever, and you basically get annoyed with people and you wreak havoc on them. You create illnesses or accidents or whatever until your remains are brought back to your native area to be interred. So the Vietnam War created literally, seriously created thousands of Vietnamese ghosts. And the Vietnamese people hire sort of psychics, I guess you'll say, to find those soldiers who were missing in action because their bodies hadn't been recovered. And the families know that they're going to be restless ghosts and seeking some revenge or vengeance until they're brought home. So, that's so fascinating. We don't have anything like that kind of a belief here in ghosts that actually enters sort of into your daily life.
I never knew that. That's the first time I've ever heard that they are still looking for their family members on the other side.
Oh, yeah. And it's a business. It really is. It's a business. You can hire people that will go out and they will try to, well, first of all, they'll try to locate the body if they can. But these are people who are usually supposed to have, psychic abilities and psychic powers. But yeah, people pay good money for it to do that.
I just got to say this. I would never expect that in a communist country.
Well, yeah, I know. So I've been to Vietnam a couple of times, but I'm certainly not an authority, in the country. It is a communist country, but it's not a communist country like, say, what we think of Russia. It's much more open. They love Americans in Vietnam. They really do, which is sort of ironic considering, that we were at a war with them for many, many years. But they're communist, but I would say sort of communist light. But even with that, there is still a very strong religious atmosphere. There are temples everywhere, and people go, and they're allowed to perform their religions, to have their religious beliefs. They seem to be able to do that without any sort of contradictions from the government. So it's not, it's different.
No kidding. That baffles me right off the bat. That is something I would love to talk to somebody about for sure. That'd be a great show. John, you are somebody who has, as you were just saying, that you have looked all over the world for paranormal, supernatural stories. What kind of story are you looking for? What intrigues you?
Well, I think that's sort of part of the quest that I'm in now. When I talked about having kind of a spiritual quest, because I'm not sure what it is that is moving me. These various Asian countries that I was in, I was in, several temples, Buddhist temples, Hindu temples, doing some of the, what would I say, psychic practices maybe that is performed at the temples. A lot of it has to do with fortune telling and that kind of stuff and seeing into the future and everything. And I engaged in a lot of those to see what that was like, But right here in America, I mean, I've gone to spiritualist church services, and I know a lot of spiritualist ministers. I went to Casadega in Florida and spent some time there. And that's a whole different sort of approach to the paranormal. So I guess the only answer I have for you, Dave, is that I'm still kind of a seeker, and as a seeker, I'm not even really sure what it is I'm looking for, which is good. Actually, for a writer, that's perfect. Because it means, it means I have an open mind. It means I don't have any preconceived notions about, that doesn't exist. Yeah. So
and correct me if I'm wrong, but it also, John, gives you the ability to have that aha moment. There it is. There's the story. That's the one I've been seeking. Because, I look at it, the equivalent of what you're doing, to kind of like my dislike for reality television in our fields. Okay, especially paranormal shows. Like, I love the paranormal. Okay, I think it's a lot of fun. I can't wait. I'm all excited. Tomorrow night, I go on a ghost tour that I run at our local museum. I'm very excited about that. But the one thing that I don't like about paranormal television is it's the same people going to the same location every time. And then the next television show a week later is at that same location doing their investigation. Like, it's always the same. There's no creativity anymore. And you're somebody who is looking for creativity in trying to find that next best story that maybe is so far gone that people have forgotten about it or have never heard about it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And I'll tell you, reality TV, or paranormal reality TV, what I don't understand is, to your point, you're right. You go to the same places over and over and over again, all these various shows, everybody goes to certain locations. We all know that. But my feeling is that if ghosts in fact exist, and I say that because I'm not sure, right? I mean, I've got evidence that makes me think yes. I also have other evidence that makes me think no, but let's assume that they're real and that they are in locations that we can go investigate. Well, it would seem to me that as an investigator, you should be doing more than investigating. I mean, I would think that if you contact a spirit someplace, if you have that ability to contact a spirit, whether you're a psychic or whether you're able to do it through, some devices or whatever, EVPs or whatever it might be. If you can do that, I think you sort of have an obligation to help that spirit, to move it to wherever it should be, because it shouldn't be here, right? I mean, it shouldn't be hanging around here. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think a lot of paranormal investigators treat haunted locations, and especially on television, treat them almost like they're zoos, like you go in and, well, let's look at the ghost today. Let's go pet the ghost. And then you walk out. And if we think that ghosts are spirits that are here because they're either trapped or confused or whatever it might be, if you can contact them, make a rapport with them, why not help them out? Why not move them? And then that place is no longer haunted. Okay. But shouldn't you be doing that?
You would think that's the purpose, because, no offense, I don't need any more Bobby Mackey's episodes. I don't need any more Waverly Hills episodes or Gettysburg episodes. Right. I don't. I've seen them for about 37 of them now in the last 15 years. Don't need any more.
No.
I want that tale from a small town, man, that, those small towns where they say, hey, you don't go out after midnight on the main street because it's alleged there's a demon that comes out and steals souls. That's the story I want. You know what I'm saying?
So just when you said that, it just made me think of something. I was in Thailand for about 2 months, and I was actually staying at a house on a campus of a university, and there was a kind of a stream that ran through the campus. And there were little bridges, little footbridges every so often you can cross over. The first thing that people at the university told me when I got there, they said, if you go out at night, they said, whatever you do, there's bridges here and there's water. Don't look into the water if you're out at night. I said, don't look at the water. Why not? Because there's spirits down in the water. And if you look in there and they see you, they'll be able to take your soul. I said, well, so I did not look into the water at night, not taking any chances. But again, just another little folklore thing, I guess. I don't know.
In the next half hour, we are going to be talking about shapeshifters and everything to do with them and what they are, who they are. Are they paranormal? Are they alien? Are they interdimensional type beings? We're going to get into it all. What turned you on to writing about shapeshifters?
So as you mentioned before, I've got many books out, and most of them have been about ghosts. The nonfiction books have been about ghosts. And I do a lot of public speaking on this, shows like yours or universities or libraries or whatever. And frequently when I give talks, I always have a Q&A and people talk to me afterwards. And I don't know how often I have heard people talk about something, an experience that they've had. And I would say, well, that doesn't quite sound like a ghost. It sounded to me more like they were talking about what we would consider to be a shapeshifter. So I kept hearing these things and started thinking, why am I hearing so much of this? What's out there? And so I just started doing some research on shapeshifters generally, and found out that around the world, almost every culture in the world has at least one shapeshifter, if not several, sometimes dozens, and that the shapeshifter character has been with us since prehistoric times. The earliest example is a cave painting in France that goes back to the Neolithic period. And anthropologists believe that it shows a shaman transforming from a man into a deer. So the question is, why? Why is the shapeshifter character so prevalent? Why is it universal? Why is it in every culture and has been with us literally since the dawn of time? So that's what caused me to write about it.
Yeah, but it's an interesting topic because it goes down so many different roads. We've heard of ghost shapeshifting. We've heard of alien shapeshifting, skinwalkers, wendigos, just to name a few. I mean, this is something that isn't just new in some sort of 20th or 21st century folklore. This is something that has been going on for eons. We've seen people on camera, whether it's believable or not, but we've seen people seem to shapeshift or disappear out of the blue. And, there's many videos of that. I'm not saying they're all real, but there's a few on YouTube that have really, really caught my attention and say, hey, like, where did that person go? They just vanished. Or you see the eyes change or something about that, and I could see why you wanted to write about this, because it's an exciting topic that has so many different trails and curves.
Yeah. And, the title is Shapeshifters. The subtitle is A History. And it's not really just history, but the book pulls together all the things that you just kind of mentioned about the different types of shapeshifters and how they present and, the experiences people have had with them or whatever. And that book could have been, I'll tell you what, Dave, it could have been much, much longer if I wanted to just continue. But I was just trying to give sort of a general overview of the shapeshifter world, if you will. But I'd like to go back and do a little bit more in-depth on shapeshifters, and I might do that.
Well, my vote is you do. Because
Okay.
I would love to see that. John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We're talking Shapeshifters, a history. John's book can be found on his website, johnkachuba.com. Make sure you check it on out. His books are great to read. Spaced Out Radio, the second half hour with me, Dave Scott continues right after this. Pizza got me there. I had pizza for dinner. It always seems like a good idea sometimes. And then about an hour and a half later, you just feel like garbage.
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
at that garbage stage right now.
Well, pizza is always a good idea, but you're right. There's an after effect.
Timmy, are you sure you don't need any eye drops? I'm good. My throat's good. Right here. Told you, man. Always got stuff here. I'm like a medicine cabinet on my desk. Thank you. Yeah, my eyes are just burning right now. Go vegan? Are you kidding me? Sierra, wash your mouth out with soap right now. I am happily carnivore. Thank you. Vegan. Then you got to eat things like quinoa and spinach. I know it's quinoa, but it's, it's dumb to eat, so I'm just going to pronounce it the way it's supposed to be pronounced. Quinoa. Yeah. Just remember, my food eats your food. It's not saving the planet. Yeah, you know what vegans are? They're like that. You're on board an airplane and somebody has a medical emergency and they yell, "Is there a doctor on board?" And so, I'm a vegan. I'm a vegan. Mm-hmm. Exactly, Jeremy Jones. Vegan? That's soccer fan food. That's right. That's right. Oh. Okay, it's hot in here, dude. We better open the window up. I'll deal with the smoke rather than dealing with the. Yeah, just open that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's gonna change about half a degree, but we're gonna feel it. There's no way it's 22. No bloody way it's 22. Hold on here. Yeah, what's the temperature in 108 Mile Ranch? Well, it's saying here it's 24. Humidity is 39%. That's 75 degrees Fahrenheit for our American listeners. Yeah. I don't mind Fahrenheit. I don't mind it. Because once you get to minus 40, it's all the same. Mm-hmm. I would prefer miles over kilometers, though. I like miles over kilometers. Yeah. And feet over meters. Can't stand meters. Who's the idiot who came up with the metric system? I don't know. Bob Metric, you're in trouble with me, man. Little Bobby Metric. Oh, man. It was one of them brainiac scientists. Let me screw with society right now. We don't need it, but we're going to do it anyways. The French. It was the French? Yeah. Well, that says everything right there. Yeah. The tabernacle. Laura Lee, how are you? Tofu is terrible, people. It's terrible. And those rice cakes, you know how about 2005, everybody was eating rice cakes. That was the thing to do. Why not just take a hammer, put a hole in your drywall, pull the drywall out, and then eat it? It's the same texture. There was nothing good about those. John, what do you think? Are you a rice cake kind of guy?
No, not so much, Dave.
Oh, thank God. Yeah,
Or tofu.
I'm vegan, but I don't eat rice cakes. Yeah, BS. You probably have 6 of them around you right now in different flavors. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I tell you, this strap, these string on my shorts, I'm gonna cut the damn thing off, man. Blue Cruz, how are you? Thank you tonight to Marty Burback for our lone super chat. Appreciate the love and support. It's a good way to support what we do. And here we go with the next half hour of the show. All right, here's the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. I'm glad to be here talking Shapeshifters with our guest, John Kachuba. We'll get to him momentarily. But first, want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. We're on every major podcast network as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon and the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, and check out our swag as well. John Kachuba is here. We're getting into the hot stuff, the meat, the juice that we want, the non-vegan variety of woo shapeshifters. John, how did you come across this topic, and why did it interest you?
Well, like I said, the big thing was that I noticed as I give a lot of my talks and presentations about ghosts, that people were telling me stories that they had heard or things they experienced that sounded to me more like shapeshifters than anything else. And so I just did the research there to find out, how popular was this? And that's when I discovered that there were basically shapeshifter characters all around the world in every culture, from like ancient times to today. And so I just kind of said, well, why is that? What's the commonalities? Why does everybody sort of have that kind of a character? Because it's kind of a unique idea. But they go way back to mythology, to legends, religion. I mean, shapeshifters are everywhere. So it was kind of an epic quest, but I really condensed it for the book because there was just too much that I could have written probably another couple of books about shapeshifters.
What makes the topic so interesting? Because, we're going to get deep here momentarily, but for you, what's the captivation of it all?
Well, I think the idea about being able to transform, just sort of the philosophy behind it, the sort of the psychological impact of what it means to be able to change your form. Because, and I talk about this in the book, we all are shapeshifters in different ways, right? There's an expression about, putting on a different hat for some particular, you're doing something different. So you're putting on a different hat. You act differently. You become somebody different. That in a way is kind of shapeshifting. Why is Halloween so popular? Or not even just Halloween, cosplay. Why is it people dress up and pretend to be another character? Usually a superhero, right? What does that say about them? Why is their need? What determines their costume? If you are going to be Superman all the time, why? What is that? Why do you like Superman? What is that telling you about yourself? Do you feel that you're not strong enough? You can't fly, So I'm just saying that I think the shapeshifter character for me was sort of an exploration of what it means to identify ourselves. Like, how do we identify ourselves? And do we ever transform? And I don't mean physically, but that might be possible too. And I can get into that a little later. But, what does that mean? Why do we do that? So the psychology behind the shapeshifter is what really I found very interesting. And that could be a book in itself, just that one aspect of it.
Right. Okay. So for people who don't know what a shapeshifter is,
Yep.
break that down for us.
Sure. So the standard definition of a shapeshifter is a person who is capable of transforming themselves into another person and then back again. They can make these transformations, but they can also transform, in addition to a person, they can transform into an animal, or sometimes, as I mentioned, Asian culture before, there's a lot of shapeshifters in Asian culture that transform into inanimate objects and back. And I mean, some of them are weird. Like there's I don't even know their names, but there's one shapeshifter that transforms itself into a frying pan and back. Well, why? I mean, why? What are you going to do as a frying pan, right? But that's the kind of, yeah. Anyway, that's the shapeshifter. It's basically about transformation into another person, animal, or thing.
You can't go from animal to frying pan without telling that story. This is Transformer type stuff here, man. You got to tell that story. What is that one?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's so there's a particular. Well, I'll say one thing about Japanese culture. A lot of their shapeshifters, a good number of their shapeshifters, are actually shapeshifting ghosts. So, which is a little bit different than our culture, because we don't really have shapeshifting ghosts. We have shapeshifting people. We have stories and tales about them, but not so much ghosts. But in Japan, they're shape-shifting ghosts. So they're already in a spirit form and they transform into something else. Again, person or an inanimate object. I don't know why a frying pan. There's another one that transforms itself into a broom. So I don't know why. I don't know why, but apparently the Japanese, in their culture, they have some very odd shapeshifters. But they also have shapeshifters that turn themselves into other people, usually again to enact some revenge. So it's a ghost that transforms itself into a person who usually gets by in that culture. People think it's a real person. That's really not, because they recognize them as, hey, that's Bob. Well, it's not really Bob. It's a shape-shifting ghost. And if you let it in your house, Bob will kill you, because that's what he's trying to do anyway. So it's a strange story.
A lot of people in today's society, when they hear shape-shifting or any type of transformation, they think of the Transformers. Okay. Sure. And the Transformers, I mean, man, I'm still addicted. I'm 51 years old and I'm still addicted to Transformers. I really am. And I just wish they would stop changing what Megatron looks like in every episode. Right. But nonetheless, that's neither here nor there. A lot of people don't know that this is a real mystical part of our secret heritage that people have downplayed over the years. And I see that as these mythical folklore legends of, like I said, the last half hour, of things like skinwalkers or wendigos or ghosts or aliens transforming themselves. So that way they have the ability to cloak, hide. Sasquatch has been thought of as some sort of cloaking type creature. I mean, we see all of this all around us. How real is this?
Well, that's a good question. Again, the character, a shapeshifter, has been around with us, forever. There are certainly reports of people seeing shapeshifters or seeing somebody shapeshift, or having that experience where they themselves witness something, happening where they think it's a shapeshifter. But real, well, that's a real interesting question. I don't know that anybody has ever been able to prove to this point that a person can actually transform into something else. I mean, I have to say, I'm not a scientist, but I do believe in science. And to me, it seems impossible that I could physically change myself right now into you, Dave, and to be you. You know, we got the beards, we got the beards going, but I mean, other than that, I mean, but I mean, there are people that say it's happened, and there are people that have witnessed that happen. In my book, I've got a couple of examples, newspaper reports, and some of them are, they're not just necessarily like the New York Post, but like the New York Times, for instance, which most people would say is a pretty reputable newspaper, ran an article about a supposed shapeshifter in India. It wasn't that long ago. It was like I want to say 92, maybe. I'm not sure. But, our time, I mean, recently, where there was something like, 20 or something children went missing over a period of time in India, in kind of a remote area of India. And nobody can understand why. But then a couple of people came forward, and this is in the New York Times article. A couple of people came forward and said that they saw this, they called it a man beast. And what it sounded like was our, sort of stereotypical werewolf running on two legs upright, but having sort of other features of a man, yet being like a canine. And at least in one account, somebody said it was a young girl that said she saw this thing carry off her little brother, who was like 4 or something, and run off with it. There was another guy who was a truck driver in India, and he said that he saw one of these things literally, he said, transforming as it ran away. It seemed to shift into another form. So this was an article. I mean, it was a New York Times article, and they were interviewing people who had said that they had these kinds of eyewitness accounts of dealing with something that sure sounds like a shapeshifter. And I've got some stories from Africa and other places of the world too, where there's similar stories where something goes, something is happening. Usually people are getting killed or something like that. And frequently it comes out that people have seen something that looks like maybe a werewolf or some other kind of animal, but yet oddly human or humanoid. And that's, what the killer was, and that it was some kind of a shapeshifter. So does that mean it's real? I don't know. I mean, people witness a lot of things, or think they witness a lot of things that they're not really witnessing. So it's hard to say, but there's first person accounts. That's all I can tell you.
Tell us one of those stories from Africa.
So there's 2 that I think of, and I can't remember the countries, but it's in the book, so people can look them up. But they're fairly recent. Again, they're probably the oldest one is like 1980s. So we're still, again, contemporary. One was that people in a village saw what looked like a flock of crows or some big black birds fly over their village. Now, this is a rural area. They're used to birds of all kinds, but they said they didn't recognize these birds. They were big black birds, and they flew over. So some of the villagers kind of ran after where the birds were going to see, follow these things. What are they? Where are they going to land? Are they, what kind of birds are they? Well, they didn't find the birds, but down the road, they found an old lady sitting in the road, and she was dressed in black. And they didn't know who she was. She wasn't like from the village. She was just a total stranger. And so they questioned her. And what she said was, and she was kind of beat up a little bit. She said that she was just now flying back to somewhere with her friends and somehow lost her ability to fly very suddenly and crashed to the ground. So, I mean, okay, this sounds like the idea of witches, witches flying and transforming, the witches' Sabbath, all that kind of stuff. So they didn't see the transformation, but they come across this woman that said she was a shapeshifter. But one that they did see was, let me see if I get the whole story right, because it's a little bit complicated. one night in a village, a villager heard somebody like banging on their door, knocking on their door, or whatever. And when he opened it, he described it as just being like a huge bat, kind of like hanging in the doorway. And it must have been wings or something knocking on it. Anyway, he got a shovel or a pick or something and tried to hit it and whack it. And it flew off. So he started chasing it. And he couldn't find it. It got lost somewhere in the jungle or whatever. But then somebody else saw the bird, or bat, I should say, and the bat came out someplace and sort of hit the ground. And the other villagers said, and as it hit the ground, it transformed into a pig. So now you got this one villager that sees this bat, a big bat. Another villager sees that same bat and says it's now transformed to a pig. Well, now a couple of people are out running around in the night looking for this thing because it's kind of terrorizing people. They find the pig, and it's kind of like semi-conscious, I guess. And it's laying somewhere. And there's like 4 or 5 villagers standing around looking at it. And they say that as they were watching this thing, that it transformed from a pig into an old man. And the old man was somebody that they knew. And it was an old man that they had considered to be sort of a shaman or a magician of some kind in their village. So this was reported in an African newspaper. The police got involved in this country. And I wish I could remember what country it was, but again, it's in the book. But the police got involved. They filed a report. And the report says that, villagers said, a bat turned into a pig and the pig turned into an old man. It's like, so there you go. I don't know what to make of stories like that. I mean, to me, it sounds like really kind of a stretch. But yet there are people that say, this is what we saw. They're eyewitnesses to something.
See, and those are usually the stories I like to believe. And I'll tell you why, John. It's because there are certain stories out there that are so far-fetched that that somebody just can't make it up. If
Right.
that makes any sense. It's irony at its best. Okay. But I mean, you just aren't going to all of a sudden see someone say, hey, I just watched my school teacher transform into a pig the minute she walked down the path. You're not going to see that, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
For us in North America, though, because we're not brought up with that type of spirituality, we're not brought up with those type of legends and lore for the most part, outside of our First Nations friends, we don't believe that things like that are possible because we're so wanting to be scientific and pragmatic that we don't open up our senses to what the possibilities are out there. And when you get somebody from a little village in Africa who has seen this happening or wherever it may be, I tend to believe them. I mean, it's like the dinosaur Makele Mbembe in the Uganda or Congo, pardon me. White people can only go there for up to 2 weeks a year and they rarely get that long because of the wars there, because of the malaria and all other sorts of diseases that the trips usually never seem to finish out. But we look at it, we're like, that is something that would be, there could be something there. 2 weeks isn't going to do it. You need 2 years to find that creature. So I see where you're going with that. And that's why I believe stories like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting to your point that most of the stories that I have in the book, the actual accounts, newspaper accounts and all, are coming from countries that it's indigenous people, or it's just people that have a long cultural history of beliefs in those kinds of things. So they're coming from Africa, they're coming from India, they're coming from Asia. You certainly get stories from Europe. especially back in the Middle Ages, there was all kinds of reports of werewolves and people turning into werewolves in France and Germany. Romania had a long history of vampires. So there's that kind of thing. But this country, North America, for the most part, again, the First Nations, our Native American people, same thing. I mean, they have that kind of tradition. But other than that, our sort of other cultures do not have that. So, yeah, it's interesting, and I just say some of these stories are remarkable. I was in an airport, sitting waiting for my airplane, and I was talking to a guy who was sitting next to me, and he was wearing a caftan, a whole full length caftan, and he had kind of a knit hat on, and he was from. I'm trying to think where he's from. Not India, someplace in Pakistan, I think is what he said. And we were talking a little bit. And of course, the conversation, I happened to somehow got on about, I'm wrote a book about shapeshifters. And he told me a story about a donkey that followed his father home one day. His father was walking around, and this donkey just came out of nowhere. I mean, there were certainly donkeys in the village or whatever, but this one came to him and started following him. I said, okay, so what? He said, well, my father kept walking back home, and he very softly looked over, and this donkey kept following him. He said, but my father, who's been around donkeys or in their village and everything else, he said he didn't like the looks of this one. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, there was something about him that my father thought was almost human, that there was something off about how the donkey looked at him or whatever, but followed him right. That when he got to his home, he had like a little compound, like a little fence or wall around his house with a gate. And this guy said, my father opened the gate quickly and closed it. And just, he said he got in the house and he looked out, and he said the donkey had disappeared right by the gate. He was gone. He said, but then he saw kind of like a man running off from that position, like running back down the road. So this guy that I was talking to, total stranger, just sitting in an airport, was telling me a story about his father, who he thinks had an encounter with a shapeshifter.
My goodness.
So,
that's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. Well, it's just, in a lot of different ways it is. Right.
You mentioned stories from India, and we only got about 90 seconds to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour, John. They have so many legends and lores because of the amount of religions there, about the amount of gods that they pray to on a daily basis. I've heard some stories, not just paranormal, but animal shape-shifting, especially in the northern parts of India, has been very, very well documented. Do you have a favorite story from there that you can share in a minute? And maybe if we have to, we could carry it over.
Well, I mean, I think the one I really liked was one that I've already related about this village being, 20 something children going missing and never being found. And apparently some people who saw it say they're being carried off by what they call them man wolves, which to me sounds like werewolves, but again, running around. But to your point, that area was Uttar Pradesh, the province, which is kind of a rural province in the northern part of the country. So, yeah.
John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because there's 30 seconds left. By the time I mention a question, there's not going to be any time for the answer, because sometimes I can be a little long-winded around here.
Yeah, me too.
I'm known for that. But I do want to remind people that we're talking about John Kachuba's book, Shapeshifters, A History. And this is a book that you can get on John's website at johnkachuba.com. All you got to do is click on it. It shows you right there where you can get it, or on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, one of the two. But go to John's website. It never hurts to support the artist right on their own website. Shapeshifters is the topic. We'll get into skinwalkers, Bigfoot, aliens, Wendigo, ghosts, and more with author John Kachuba when we return for hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I am totally enthralled with this topic right now. Totally enthralled. I'm going to take a quick break here, John. I'm going to put you back in the green room. I'll be right back, okay?
All right.
We got about 5.5 minutes. Hi, John. Sorry about that.
That's right.
It's fun. Thank you for coming on and sharing.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Anytime, my man. Anytime. Let's not make it like 6-7 years next time.
Let's try. It's been about that long.
All right, we got about 50 seconds.
All right.
Big thank you to Marty Burback for our lone super chat tonight. Greatly appreciate the love and support. Thank you to all of our new subscribers who are coming on in and hanging on out. We appreciate you as well. Don't forget to give us a follow. You're not supposed to say hit subscribe anymore. It's give us a follow. Subscribe tells people they have to pay money. Yeah. So we don't do that anymore. Don't forget, next 2 weeks we are going to be dark. We're going to try and put on some previous episodes for you, play some repeats. Here we go, everybody. Here we go, the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us as we're talking Shapeshifters tonight with author John Kachuba. I love this topic. All right, let's say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Vasimulgence. Vasimulgence is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam says the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. John Kachuba is here. JohnKachuba.com is his website, where we're talking about shapeshifters. He's got a book out on his website, Shapeshifters, A History, where he looks into the deep legends and lore from around the world of creatures and people who have transformed. Are they Autobots? Are they Decepticons? We don't know. But John takes this topic pretty seriously. John, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave.
One of the things that I want to get into, let's get into the real weird side of this first before we get nice and serious.
I thought we were there.
True. And that is, a lot of people believe there are a bunch of humans out there that shapeshift from reptilians to human beings. They believe in the conspiracy that everybody from the Queen and all sorts of royalty around the world, world leaders like Vladimir Putin and former presidents of the United States are all reptilians, tucking their tails under their dresses or in their pants to keep the world from knowing that there are reptilian governments trying to end the planet. We hear it. It's a conspiracy theory that for some just will not go away. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, this whole thing was started by David Icke, in England some time ago, and his belief was that reptilian aliens came to Earth from I forgot what star cluster, but he had a name for, I don't know what one it was, but it's a real star cluster, that they came here like millions of years ago. And that when they came here, there were no humans on the planet yet. There were still, I guess, proto-humans, half ape, half, whatever. And his theory is that they mated with these proto-humans, putting their genetic material into them that's been carried on for millions and millions of years in sort of their descendants. And so today, the theory is that we have, as you said, we have these people who are capable of transforming into reptilian aliens. Although I'm not even sure they'd be aliens at this point if they've been here so long, but I guess maybe they are. And that, yeah, a lot of the famous world leaders, not just world leaders politically, but even like some of the big entertainers, sports figures, writers. In fact, I'm a reptilian alien shapeshifter, but I'm not supposed to mention that.
Well, we'll edit that part out.
Yeah. But that these people are there. And the idea, I think, is to sort of bring on a whole new world order. And there's millions of people that believe Ike's, I don't know if I can call it a theory, but his story, let's say, that they believe it. And I know he's got a newsletter and millions of people subscribe to it. And as you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, there are videos, you can see them where people show an eye sort of change to look almost like a reptile, like a snake eye with the iris going, a vertical kind of iris. Anyway, I mean, that's what it is. And a lot of people adhere to it. It sounds a little bit far-fetched to me, but that's personal opinion.
Sounds far-fetched to me as well. But hey, it just goes to show that if you believe in someone's message, you will believe everything they say. This
is true. It's happening. It's happening in our country right now. My country.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine
okay.
Too. There are still people who think dear leader isn't.
Yeah.
It is there for for the best of Canada. But that's a different topic for a different day.
I agree. Yeah.
But. However, in North America, we have heard of shapeshifters. We've heard of Bigfoot shape-shifting. We have heard of Wendigo shape-shifting. And Wendigo is a word that an extreme amount of First Nations and Indigenous people will not even use the word because they think if you say the word, you're going to summon the creature to you. It's like a harbinger of bad things that happen. Skinwalkers, the exact same way. How far back does the legends of shape-shifting go in North America?
Well, I think, again, with the indigenous people, like you mentioned, shapeshifters, and in this country, that's primarily nations in the Southwest. So like the Navajo, the Dene people, or Utes, some of those people have had shapeshifter characters, skinwalkers, as they call them, in their culture for, I don't know, centuries and centuries. And they have the same sort of fear of them, as you mentioned, for the Wendigo. They won't talk about skinwalkers for fear of bringing one on them, So, and I imagine the same thing with the Wendigo. In our country, Wendigos are mostly seen up in the northern states. Well, kind of, Canadian border and over, like the Cree and some other people up that way apparently have, that character in their culture as well. But yeah, it goes back for a long, long time. And I don't see any influence. It's interesting because I don't see any influence in either one of those, skinwalkers or Wendigos. I don't see any influence coming from some of the European settlers that came to North America, whether they're French, Spanish, English. These creatures seem to derive from that indigenous culture entirely and not have, any effect or influence or be influenced by the other cultures, which makes me think that they're more authentic in that regard because it is truly just their culture.
I understand that. Do you believe that these creatures are running around, or do you believe that they are tulpas from history past?
I never heard of them as tulpas from history's past. That's an interesting idea. I do think that there are, I mean, I would say, yes, there are skinwalkers, and probably, yes, there are probably, well, I'm not sure about a Wendigo if you look at the technical definition, but a skinwalker, well, the belief is that skinwalkers, again, from the Southwest peoples, are shamans. So they're they're human beings who, again, shift into some other form, typically an animal form. But usually they do that to, again, sort of like the ghosts that I mentioned in Asian cultures. They usually do that shifting to get retribution or revenge or something on another person. So they're out to harm somebody. So they're what you would consider sort of evil shamans. Um, but I'm pretty certain that among some of those nations that have that belief, that there are probably people that you can go to and say, I've got somebody that's causing a problem. Do you know how I can get rid of it? And that they might say, well, we know of a guy who's a shaman who, can transform. Does it really happen? I don't know. But the belief is there. The belief is there. And if the belief is there, then the thing exists. You know what I mean?
Belief is a powerful thing. How real do you think shapeshifters are then? If we hear people are shapeshifting or like we were just talking about, skinwalkers or something along those lines.
Right.
How real are they? The legend is real. The fear is real.
Right.
But how real are the creatures?
So I'll give you an example, which is probably going to put me and maybe have me burned at the stake by folks who are very religious. But this is not coming from me. This is coming from a theologian from the Netherlands. And again, this is the whole story is my book, so you can read about it at length. But this theologian found, he didn't find it. He was examining a text that was in a museum in New York City, and the text was written in Coptic, an ancient language in northern Africa, right, primarily Egypt. And the Coptics were Christians. Well, they still are. They're still around. But anyway, as he was translating this, the scrap that he was translating talked about Jesus, and it talked about it was like a question and answer. Like somebody said, "Well, how do we know Jesus?" If you remember, there's an old Bible passage where Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane the night before he's going to be betrayed. And Judas is talking, to the Jews and all that. And they say, well, how will we recognize this guy? How will we know who he is? And Judas says, well, I'll go up and I'll kiss him on the cheek and you'll know that's the guy and you come and arrest him. But the question was that's interesting is that the Jews, the Jewish authorities, asked, how would they recognize him? Now, here's a question. They're going to arrest him because he's been creating all kinds of difficulties for him. Yet they can't recognize him. Why would they not be able to recognize him if they know who he is and they want to arrest him? So what this theologian says, as he's translating this text, the question is there, well, how will we recognize him? And the answer, well, they go on more. They say, how will we recognize him? Because sometimes he appears, and I'm paraphrasing this because I don't have the book right in front of me, but I have the actual text from the theologian that you can read. But basically, they say sometimes he appears, the word is ruddy, kind of like a reddish complexion. Like sometimes he appears ruddy. Sometimes he appears wheat colored, which would be pale. They say sometimes he appears as an old man. Sometimes he appears as a young man. So they're saying that's why they don't recognize him. Do they mean that metaphorically? Like, since he appealed to so many people and was speaking to so many different people, did they just mean that metaphorically? Or were they saying, this has been our experience? He seems to be a different person. So this theologian says that it seems like, what the question is, was Jesus a shapeshifter? Right? And there's other areas, there's other times in the Bible that you can look at passages that make you think like, what was he? The Transfiguration, where Jesus goes up to a mountain And he has his disciples down below. And he says, "Now I'm going to go up and pray. You guys just stay cool. You pray down here. I'm going to go up to the top of the mountain." And they say that when he gets up there, he's Moses and Elijah come to him too. And these the prophets that have been dead for centuries, right? But the three of them are up there. Anyway, they say that Jesus, they don't say transforms, but the word is transfigures, right? Subtle difference maybe. But what they say is that he takes on this luminous appearance where he's glowing so brightly, according to the Bible, that they're hiding their eyes. They can't look at him. And then he comes down, then the lights go out, basically. He comes down from the mountain and everything's sort of normal. And there's other examples. I mean, I won't belabor it, but there's a couple other ones that I have in the book that you might say, well, that's kind of strange. Is Jesus a shapeshifter? So to answer your question, can it happen? Does it happen? Well, I mean, the Bible seems to indicate that at least Jesus was a, shapeshifter, possibly. So I have to say, I got in trouble for saying that in my book. There was a Catholic journal that came out. And I was surprised that a Catholic journal was even reading my book, but it did. And the reviewer reviewed it and kind of blasted me for that as, kind of blasphemy. And I didn't reply, but my feeling was, well, if you believe that Jesus was God and is all powerful and everything else, and if he made blind men see and crippled people walk, and if he rose from the dead himself, how hard would it be for him to be a shapeshifter? That should be like a parlor trick, So anyway, so a long-winded story, but supposedly Buddha too went through a stage where his disciples said that he transfigured. In fact, a couple of times in his life, they said he did it. I think three times. So I don't know. They're not normal people. I mean, both of them are very, very spiritual people, right? So maybe there's something, we talked about spirituality. Maybe there's something in becoming very spiritual that gives you those abilities. I don't know.
Do you think we all have the capability? Like people believe that everybody has their own psychic intuition. Do you think we all have the ability to shapeshift, maybe turn ourselves invisible, cloak ourselves?
Well, in my book, I talk about two types of shapeshifters. And these are terms that I use. I talk about external shapeshifters and internal shapeshifters. And when I say external, I mean the typical, stereotypical, a guy suddenly transforms into a wolf. Now he's got claws and big teeth and he's hairy, right? And he's running around on all fours. We see that. That's external. But there's a lot of things going on inside all of us that I say we could be internal shapeshifters. And I think of people like Ted Bundy, for instance, right? Ted Bundy, brutal serial killer. I mean, I don't know how many people he killed. But to all appearances, when you met Ted Bundy, he was always a clean-cut kind of young guy, the kind of guy that would help an old lady with her groceries, put him in the car, the kind that would, walk another old lady down the street or something, when inside this guy was a monster. So what is that? How is he able to sort of appear one way to a lot of us and yet have this inner whatever, sort of another shadow person inside? Think of the novel Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's exactly what that was about, right? Dr. Jekyll is this upstanding, moral, humanitarian type doctor. Yet he has this question about what would it be like if I could throw off all the things that bind me to my society? What if I can throw off the law? What if I can throw off my sense of morality? What if I can throw off my religious beliefs and then just, run around in the woods at midnight naked howling at the moon. What if I could do that? What would it be like? So he gets this potion, develops a potion. He takes it. And sure enough, Mr. Hyde comes out, which is that guy I just described running around crazy. And Hyde becomes a murderer. And Jekyll can't live with that and kills himself. So this is kind of an age-old thing about sort of the double identities that we have. I mean, we're animals, right? So are we capable of shape-shifting psychologically, where we act out and become different people without physical changing? To me, I consider that shape-shifting. And I do think we all have that ability to some degree, or that proclivity, whether we act on it or not. You know, most of us keep ourselves in the straight and narrow, and we don't act on that because it could be dangerous. And some people do act on it, and it is dangerous.
I can see that. I mean, you look at werewolves. People tend to think that they can transform into werewolves.
Yeah.
And I also look at the idea, you know, when it comes to what you just said, where does psychology and mental illness come into that shape-shifting? If you look at somebody like a Ted Bundy or other serial killers, the Zodiac killer, for instance, never caught. How many serial killers have never been caught because they can turn it off just as quickly as they turned it on, and they can go for years without having to feed their grotesque fantasy.
Right, exactly. And so you have to say, well, they're mentally ill. And you say, well, okay, but how do you define mental illness then? I mean, you talked about people acting out as werewolves. And again, in my book, I talk about, especially during like the 16th century, the 1500s and early 1600s, in Germany and in France, there were several cases of people who believed they were werewolves. And they'd always talk about meeting, they always talk about a man in black or something, or a man in the woods would give them something, either a cloak or an ointment or something, that when they employed those things, they could turn into a wolf. Well, you know, they didn't, but there were several of them that acted out as if they were wolves. There was one, I cannot remember the guy's name, but I had too many names in the book. I can't remember this, but he's in the book, and it was in Germany. And this guy killed several people, and in horrible ways. And with his bare hands, he ate people. He would kill people, tear them apart, and eat them like a wolf. And when he was caught, I mean, they caught him in the act. He was on all fours, savaging this corpse that he had just, personally just killed. Sorry, excuse me.
No problem.
So they executed him, and burned him at the stake for, they didn't call it lycanthropy. They called it werewolfery. But we know that as a mental disease, lycanthropy. But even in there was a case like as late as 1980s or 1990s of a teenage boy who would walk and go on all fours and be growling at people and snapping at them and everything else. And, he ended up in a mental institution. So you've got that. And to me, that is still shape-shifting. Not the kind we think of, not the kind you see in the movies, but I think maybe even a deadlier kind, because it's real.
Very much understand that. Very much understand that. We have about 3 seconds. Hold on right there. We're going to go to break here. John Kachuba, we have until the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we are clear, John.
All righty.
Flying on by, 90 minutes through already.
I know. Do I have
Is
a
there-
minute to get a glass of water? I'm
Yeah, go
losing-
right ahead. You have
losing-
about 4.5 minutes.
All right, lose my voice here.
No problem. Gives me an opportunity just to stare into the screen. Let's see if Tim and I can stare into the screen together. Hold on. John, we're just staring into the screen blankly at our audience to kind of trip them out. If you want to join us, maybe I should wait for him to put his headphones on. John, we're just going to stare into the screen blindly to kind of trip our audience out. If you want to join us, I can't. My eyes are burning already. Damn smoke. Oh. Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? I have personally tugged Tim Mothman's goatee. Mm-hmm. I have personally tugged it. Uh-huh. All right. I'm booting you out, Tim. I'm booting you out. And he liked it. Yeah. Tim likes a good beard tug. Yeah, that's right. John, what's up for you next?
Well, I'm working on the Bottle Conjurer series. You mentioned that book, Historical Fantasy, and it's a trilogy. So I'm working on book 2 now, which is almost about done, and then book 3. So, but I've got a lot of appearances in the fall for the paranormal stuff. October, like almost every day in October, it's Halloween. You know.
That's awesome. That is just awesome. We've got about 2.5 minutes.
So you can see at this book, it kind of took some wild turns as I got into this.
All right. We got about 1.5 minutes here. All right, John, we got just over 1 minute here.
Okay.
Felipe, how are you, my man? Good to see you, Felipe. Pony Pong, good morning to you. Earth Goat Tress Trees. Philip Backanuts, how are you? Want to say a big thank you tonight to Necessary Dialogue, Forrest Louis ×2, Noble Patrick, and Marty Burback for the great super chats. Greatly appreciate it. Hi, Archon Jackpot. Welcome to SOR Chat. Super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very much. Thank you. Don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store on our website. We do not have ugly swag, people. Nothing ugly. Be proud to wear our stuff out in public. And more than just to a garage sale or to mow the lawn or to paint the house. All right, here we go, everybody, in like 8 seconds. All right, let's head on over to the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. I want to say to all of you that our archives are always free. You can download them on any major podcast network, or you can check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, let's say hello once again for the final time tonight. Author, researcher John Kachuba. He's got a book out called Shapeshifters, A History. You can find it on his website, johnkachuba.com. I highly suggest you add this to your library. John, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave.
We were talking about a lot of indigenous, but I want to ask you about werewolves. Okay, we got into the mental aspect of everything as well last half hour. We talked about werewolves. They are a spiritual creature going back to a millennia in Europe, in North America, in Asia. They seem to be all around, where people say, come a full moon, they turn into a werewolf. And there are still people today that believe that. A full moon, you know, I have my one of my older sisters, she worked in the prison guard, provincial corrections, pardon me, I guess that would be the correct term, for over 30 years. And she said, come full moons, everything kind of went to hell. In the prisons, hospitals, the same way.
Mm-hmm.
People claiming they're werewolves, people claiming that there's something in their body. Is it just the full moon, or is this really happening within us?
Well, I have to say, I actually worked in a hospital emergency room for several years when I was in college and coming out. And there were nights when all hell would break loose. You'd have shootings, you'd have stabbings, you know, all kinds of stuff. And it was always said, well, it must be a full moon. And sometimes it was, you know. I kind of think that's coincidence more than anything. I'm a little bit of a skeptic on some of these things. And interestingly enough, I hate to burst a lot of bubbles here, but the thing about a werewolf at the full moon, you know, turning into a werewolf at the full moon, that was never a part of werewolf lore or mythology until the movie The Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr., because he has a poem in there where he says something, I can't remember it, but, you know, by the full moon and wolf bane or whatever, that's when you turn into a werewolf. But prior to that, nobody ever said that. They say you can turn into a werewolf anytime you want, you know. Especially if you are a shapeshifter, and I mean, and you have that ability, you didn't have to wait for full moon. In his case, in the movie, it was because of a curse that was put on him. And so the curse was at the full moon. But so in his case, yes, but werewolves before then didn't have to wait for a full moon. They can get you anytime they wanted to. So it's kind of interesting how little bits of culture, like, so a film puts us out there and that becomes attached to all werewolf mythology forever. it's the same thing like actually with vampires. Prior to Bram Stoker's Dracula, a vampire was not sort of this aristocratic, rich, like they are now today, like in the Twilight series and all those kinds of things. Vampires are all rich, glamorous, glorious people with a lot of money and everything. Where the old Romanian vampire, where for most of Europe, that's where the vampire lore comes from, were basically just everyday people. They didn't look like the ones we see in the movies today or read about in novels. And in fact, they were, again, going back to sort of physicality, they were actually pretty corpulent. They had some body to them. They weren't emaciated and wasting away because they were living off the life and the life force, not blood, but the life force of the living, and usually relatives. So I mean, the whole idea of these shapeshifters is that they literally are changing too over time. They're transforming into different types as we add stuff to them, from movies, from books, from religious beliefs, whatever it might be, mythology. They're constantly evolving, which I think is pretty fascinating in its own right. Shapeshifters are always shape-shifting.
Is there a difference between humans who shapeshift and creatures that shapeshift?
The difference between what? I'm sorry.
Humans who shapeshift and creatures who shapeshift.
Well, so that's a good question, because when I talk about shapeshifters, it always starts with a human. A human that could shapeshift into an animal or another human or inanimate object. But I don't talk so much about an animal, let's say, shapeshifting with another animal. But I suppose that would be possible. So again, going back to Japan, there are animals that are shapeshifters. There's they're called kitsune, which are foxes that can transform into people, but they start off as a fox. They transform into people. They can transform back. There's something called tanuki, which sometimes called a raccoon dog, because it looks like a dog, but it's got a tail it's got a ringed striped tail. It's kind of interesting animal. It's a real animal, just like a kitsune, a fox is a real animal. But the tanuki also can transform into anything it wants. Again, a person, whatever. So yeah, I mean, there are animals that can transform. And in fact, like I said, the kitsune, there's a novel I just finished called The Fox Wife, and it's written by a Japanese American, and it's about it starts off with this fox that transforms into a woman, and back and forth, but mostly she transforms into a woman to enact something. I mean, you have to read the novel, but yeah, so it happens, and I don't think there's really much difference in kind of how that happens in terms of shapeshifters, but there are animals that can do that without being human first. Just trying to think if there's other ones.
Well, let me move on here, because
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier about curses as well.
Yeah.
Do you believe curses? Well, first off, let me ask, do you believe in curses, number one? And number two, do you believe curses can force some sort of shape-shifting within a person?
So the first part of your question is, I don't believe curses themselves have the power to do anything. I do believe for somebody who's susceptible to that belief that they can feel that they're cursed, and which probably isn't going to do them very well. They're probably going to be in more trouble by believing that they're cursed. But the interesting thing is that if you look back in Western civilization, if you look at some of the early shapeshifters, especially like in Greek mythology, Roman mythology, the shapeshifters were not normal people. They were gods, but they would frequently curse a mortal and transform them into something. So there's stories about, like, I can't remember which, I don't know if it was Diana, but a Greek nymph who was transformed into a tree by the gods to protect her from a guy who wanted her, to say the least. But frequently the curses were imposed on mortals from the gods, and that curse ended up with them being transformed into something, sometimes being able to transfer back. There's a Greek Tiresias who was, what did he do? The story was he found two snakes copulating. And for whatever reason, he took a stick and he started whacking them. And that upset one of the goddesses up in Olympus. And so she cursed him and transformed him into a woman. So Tiresias, who was a full-grown adult male, becomes a woman. And he lives as a woman for like a couple of decades. He marries as a woman, has children, and becomes a successful businesswoman. And then one day she is out walking and sees two snakes copulating again. This is like decades later, and does the same thing, takes a stick and starts hitting them, and he's transformed back into a man. So, I think I lost the train of that, but anyway, there's an example of a curse, creating transformations, creating shapeshifters.
So weird. What about Greek mythology, Roman mythology? There seems to be a lot of shape-shifting going on there. Does that play out into the mythos?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I was saying. It's very common that's where we see some of the early, in Western civilization, that's where you see a lot of the early shapeshifters. I mean, Zeus, the Greek god of gods, was a great example. There's at least 10 or maybe a dozen different times that he transforms, and it's never into the same thing. He transforms into different kinds of animals, like a swan, a bull, an ant, and usually it's his way to have it's usually a way for him to have his way with a mortal woman. So he does all these transformations. And he wasn't alone in that. I mean, so many of the gods, Roman and Greeks, were shapeshifters. It wasn't until maybe the Middle Ages or so, when people didn't really necessarily believe in the old Roman and Greek gods anymore, but they still believed in power and in certain people having power. And so by the Middle Ages, what happens is, instead of the gods being the ones who are shapeshifters and can shapeshift somebody else, transform them or curse them, it comes down a rung to mortals. But these mortals now are sorcerers, witches, shamans, however you want to refer to them. And now all the mythology is that they have the power. They can transform themselves, or sometimes they can curse and transform others into that too. So
I think that's wonderful. Wonderful. Scares the hell out of me. But it's aliens. We talked a little bit about reptilians earlier, but a lot of people believe that aliens can shapeshift, and people have had encounters with giant owls, giant deer, and others that just seem to be staring at them. And next thing they know, they've got 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of missing time after having these interactions. Have you looked into the alien aspect of it all?
A little bit. I don't know about the giant owls or giant deer. That's new to me. But there was a guy, I think his name is Dave, and I think his last name was Banas, maybe Banas. Again, in my book, I just don't remember. But he has an interesting theory about alien shapeshifters that really makes a lot of sense, which is that we don't know at all if there's other life out there in the universe, and I'm pretty sure there's got to be somewhere in the universe, We don't know what that's like. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what abilities it has. We don't know anything about it. So if it came to Earth, if it was visiting us, um, we probably would not be able to interact with it in any way if we are so terrified of its physical aspect or how it looked or how it behaved, right? So what he says is that they transform into a human shape, which kind of goes to what Dave Icke says with reptilian alien stuff, is that the only way that they can be in our society and learn about our society or whatever it is they're trying to do would be if they looked like one of us. And so his theory is that, yeah, they shapeshift. They have to shapeshift because we would not be able to stand it otherwise. We'd be terrified. We'd try to kill them, whatever. We'd try to escape, whatever it might be. And this, too, by the way, is part of the reason, going back to Zeus again, part of his transformation was that in his appearance as a god, or the god of gods, the father of the gods, the supreme god, no human mortal would be able to survive in his presence because his presence would be so awesome, so magnificent, whatever you want to say, so powerful, that the only way any human could be with him was if he was in some other form. Now, why he would choose an animal instead of just a guy, I don't know. Although he did transform into a man at one time, a different guy. But anyway, so I think the aliens. I think if there's aliens out there, and if they're here visiting us, they have to be doing it in a form that we find acceptable, which would be one of us.
Where do you think these shapeshifters hide? Are they in plain daylight? Are they in the forests? Are they all around us? Can they become almost like what we call a glitter man that we believe Sasquatch is when it shapeshifts? Are they in different dimensions and just pop into our reality when they feel like it?
Well, the question about dimensions is an interesting one because that is part of what I think might explain ghosts. When they suddenly, we see something for 2 seconds, and it might just be that what used to be, well, we know it's no longer a universe, it's a multiverse. That's what quantum physics tells us, right? And it also tells us that there's an infinite number of dimensions or layers of reality, if you want. And it might be possible maybe that under the right conditions, our reality kind of bumps up against the other one, for lack of a better way to explain it. And in that sort of crossover, we get a quick look into that other dimension or other reality, and we see a ghost, or maybe we see an alien, whatever. Maybe we see Bigfoot. And on the other hand, that dimension is also looking into ours and maybe looking at us as a ghost or an alien or something like that. So I think that's a possibility. In terms of like hiding just in plain sight, well, as that researcher, that UFO researcher said, if aliens are among us, they would have to be in a different form. And I'm guessing they'd probably stay in that form. I don't know if they go to an alien, spa somewhere or whatever. I think they're all probably just among us if they're here.
We got about 5 minutes to go before we have to say goodnight to you tonight, John. And it's been so fun chatting with you. What should we know about shapeshifters? How do we know if they're even around? Are there any signs, any tall tales?
I would say there's not. I would say just be more wary of the internal shapeshifters than the external. Watch the company that you keep, maybe. I don't know if I have any more advice than that.
It seems, it seems a little bit in wonderment. Now you've had me thinking all night, have I ever ran into a shapeshifter? And would I even know? Because if they're shape-shifting, they could make themselves pretty much look like anything. I mean, that's almost like witchcraft.
Oh yeah, well that's the whole thing. It's just that we wouldn't know. I mean, we literally have to see the transformation take place, right? Otherwise, I mean, how would you know? You wouldn't know.
I really don't know.
That's right.
I honestly do not know. That's what I'm trying to figure out as I think about this, because it is kind of freaky. It is kind of freaky when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, have you ever been approached by any shapeshifters or people who claim to be shapeshifters?
Well, so not in person, but I've had people email me and just tell me that they're shapeshifters, and they, that they tell me their experience. Like, yeah, I'm a shapeshifter, and I do it whenever I feel like I need to, or something weird. But I've had emails like that, especially after being on a show like this. I'll get somebody. I'll probably get one now. That people will say, "Yeah, I'm a shapeshifter." Okay.
How seriously do you take that?
Well, honestly, I don't take it very seriously. I mean, like I said, I'm a bit of a skeptic on this stuff.
What would make you a believer?
Oh, seeing a transformation for sure. I mean, if somebody came to me right now and said I'm a shapeshifter, I'd say, well, what do you mean? Because again, I certainly think that there are internal shapeshifters. I think all of us are capable of doing things that we didn't think we would do under different circumstance. But if somebody said, no, I'm a werewolf or whatever, so okay, well, show me. I mean, I'd want to see it. I'd have to trust my own eyes on that one.
I think for me, it would be, seeing the confirmation right in front. Like, we had a Sasquatch encounter a couple of years ago now.
Okay.
4 of us. To this day, we don't know how it left. We were about 80 yards from it, 100 yards from it. And 4 of us were watching it. It was at night. We had flashlights on it. And, out of all the nights to bring our crappiest flashlights, this is the night it happens, of course. The area was also lit up by a full moon. And if it went to its left, our right, we would have heard it go over a bunch of fallen trees. That would have made noise. If it went to its right, our left, it would have had to have crossed the logging road and went up an embankment. If it went backwards, we would have seen it disappear into the darkness. If it came forward, obviously we would have seen it. We have no idea how this thing left. It just vanished.
It's just gone.
Gone. So weird. John, we got about 45 seconds left with you. Big thank you and big hugs to you for coming on Spaced Out Radio again. I promise it won't be another 6 to 7 years.
Okay.
Tell everybody where they can find your books.
Well, as you mentioned, johnkachuba.com has all my books listed, and there's links there for booksellers. You can get it there. A lot of them are in bookstores. I mean, ask, they should be in there. But if not, you can get on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com. Almost anybody that sells books online will have my books as well, too. So. And on my website, johnkachuba.com, I have a schedule of events, like where I'll be and what programs I'll be on, and that kind of thing too. So you can follow me, or better still, come out. I'd like to meet you, So
all right.
In person.
John, good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio. We appreciate you. Coming up next on the big show, Steve Stockton from Tales Untold. Then Tim James is in studio for another great UFO report coming up to fill up hour 3. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Let's see, I'm trying to get.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Dave. I'll see you next time around.
Absolutely. Take care, my man.
Take care. Bye-bye.
John Kachuba, everybody. Love him. Love him. I'll be right back. Going to wash my face from all this forest fire smoke. All right. I am back. Oh, that forest fire smoke. Ugh. I hate that when that happens. Dark Starry Sky, the air conditioner's upstairs. We've got everything going in here. How you doing, Dark Starry Sky? Who else has come in late here? Let's take a peeky-poo here. Bombshell Bomber, nice to see you. Ghost, thanks for joining us. Amy Amanda, thank you for coming on in. I think we're caught up. All right. Thank you tonight to Forrest Louis ×2, Noble Patrick, Necessary Dialogue, and Marty for the great super chats. Thank you for your love and support. Don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. Here we go. All right, here comes the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Great to have you here as you are listening to some of the best tinfoil radio you could ever find on this planet. And we broadcast live each and every night right here on our terrestrial affiliates around North America. And if you're tuned on in to those affiliates, thank you very much for supporting us. We greatly appreciate your love and support. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight. What do we got, Clam? Well, it's Vasimulgence. Vasimulgence is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to Steve Stockton.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. In the desolate expanse of the railroad tracks near Gurdon, Arkansas, an otherworldly light flickers and dances in the distance. Its origins remain shrouded in mystery, passed down through generations of local lore and whispered tales. This enigmatic phenomena, known as the Gurdon Light, both captivates and confounds those who dare to bear witness to its ethereal glow, like a beckoning beacon in the darkness. It calls out to the curious and the courageous, daring them to uncover its secrets and discover its elusive source. The luminescent orb flickers and dances in the air, casting a mysterious glow that ranges from pure white to ethereal shades of blue and green. It hovers just above the rusty railroad tracks, beckoning curious onlookers with its otherworldly presence. This phenomenon is most often witnessed on a desolate stretch of track known as the Railroad Cut, where an old legend tells of a tragic accident that claimed the life of a railroad worker. The eerie light seems to be a manifestation of his restless spirit, forever trapped in this lonely place. The Gurdon Light, a mysterious and eerie phenomenon, has been the subject of countless legends and stories. One of the most well-known tales tells of a tragic accident that occurred in the early 1900s. A nameless railroad worker was struck and killed by a train while toiling away on the tracks. To this day, his identity remains unknown, but his ghostly presence is said to still roam the area, carrying an otherworldly lantern that glows like a beacon in the darkness. The lantern, which was never recovered after the accident, is believed to be the restless spirit's only possession and serves as a haunting reminder of his untimely demise. Some say that if you visit the tracks late at night, you may catch a glimpse of the spectral light moving along the rails, forever searching for peace in the afterlife. For years, a steady stream of individuals have journeyed to the railroad cut, each one seeking to unravel the mysterious secrets hidden within its depths. From curious locals to seasoned paranormal investigators, all have come in search of the elusive light that is said to haunt this place. Some claim to have witnessed the light darting and dancing about as if guided by an unseen force, while others speak of a chilling drop in temperature or an inexplicable sense of unease that washes over them as they draw near to the area. The mysterious Gurdon light has puzzled many throughout the years, with numerous theories attempting to explain its origins. Some claim it to be a simple natural occurrence, perhaps caused by swamp gas or peculiar atmospheric conditions. Others argue that it's merely a trick of the eye, a reflection of passing car headlights from a nearby highway. Yet, these explanations fall short when considering the light's erratic movements and its long history of sightings by locals and visitors alike, back to a time before there was no highway. And then there's the chilling connection to the tragic legend of the deceased railroad worker, whose ghost is said to still roam these grounds seeking revenge. Whatever it is, the eerie glow of the light dances through the darkness, beckoning curious souls to explore its secrets if they dare. The Gurdon light, shrouded in myth and legend, has become an indispensable part of the fabric of local folklore. Its enigmatic glow both captivates and terrifies, casting a spell over those who dare to witness its ethereal presence. It stands as a potent symbol of the inexplicable mysteries that lie just beyond our grasp, reminding us that some secrets may remain forever beyond our understanding. For it is in the blurred boundaries between the known and unknown that the most compelling stories are born, pulsing with a haunting allure that beckons us to explore their depths.
Thank you to Steve Stockton for a great story. If you want more just like that, head on over to his YouTube channel, Tales Untold, and you could check him out for free there. Let's get to the UFO report.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
Tim James is here in studio for another UFO report. And Tim, this is your first week on the job. How you feeling?
Feel good.
You're still liking it?
Kind of. Yeah, no, I really do like it. I enjoy it. Yeah.
The fans have been good?
The fans have been exceptionally good.
How many autographs you signed so far?
Tons. They're lining up to the left and the right of the studio when I leave.
No kidding.
I'm telling you.
No kidding. That is very, very... See, they don't line up for me anymore. No, they don't line up for me anymore.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what that's about.
I want to ask you, in my Dave 101 the other night,
Yes.
I talked about experiencers and the fear that goes along with that. And that comes off the show where we did with Merle and Samantha Mowat about something in the forest.
Right.
I've taken you there.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody what that area is like.
Okay, so first of all, it is in the middle of, I think like you said last night, it's in the middle of nowhere. It is, how would you put it? It's ominous, but it's quiet. You walk in there and you can feel the energy. Like I got the old goosebumps in the hair on my arm standing up, but it's different because there's no birds. There was no sounds at all. The silence is deafening in there, and it's I wouldn't say creepy. I mean, at night I could imagine when you guys were in there, it was creepy as heck. But yeah, even during the day, there's a feeling of sadness in there as well. I mean, it's obviously you're up by a large plane crash, but yeah, it's kind of like you come into the zone and everything that you were feeling on the outside, yeah, it's just a bubble unto itself. It's different. It's definitely different.
I remember you saying as you were looking around the trees when we were there that you were a little weirded out because there was no sound.
That's just exactly it. Exactly it. And I even, like I said to you, I couldn't believe how quiet it was. It was like anything and everything that was living in there, or, animals, I'm talking, they just seemed to avoid that space. Obviously you guys are, Mark thought that there was a bear in there when you guys were up there. I get it. But yeah, I don't even know. I can't even put it into words. It's a feeling. It really is a feeling. And it's unmistakable.
You also picked up when we were there that we were being watched.
Not at first, I don't think it was, but yeah, it was. It did. You could feel it, and you just kind of look around, and I'm a hunter. I've hunted for years and years, and I mean not as good as Mark or anything, but been in the bush ever since I was a little kid, and you trust your gut in the bush, right? That's what I was always taught. But yeah, I could feel it. I could definitely feel something watching us, and it wasn't threatening. You just knew that there was eyes on you. It's a
weird place.
It is.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you about was when I took you into that area, being as ominous as it feels out there, there's a lot of people out in internet land and a lot of armchair skeptics and quarterbacks when it comes to what it's like being in those situations, how they would say, oh, I would just pull out my camera, or I would take a video, or if I saw Sasquatch, I would chase it down in the forest. You've been to a place like that. You know how weird it feels.
Yeah.
What is that like? And what do you say to the skeptics who would say, I would have done it differently?
Well, like you say, and I mean, term loosely, armchair quarterback. I think it's just with my way of thinking, you really can't say until you're in that situation. But I would highly doubt myself when you and I were up there, if I would have went, oh my gosh, there's whatever, there's a Sasquatch. Hang on, where's my camera? I think I'd probably be frozen in fear to a degree, right? I'd be excited, but I think I'd be scared to death. And I don't think the last thing I'm thinking of is reaching in my pocket for my phone to take a picture. I'm thinking my brain's going fight or flight. And I'm thinking of the quickest way I could possibly get out of there if things go sideways. That's, being completely honest. I'm not afraid of being in the bush. I'm not afraid of being a solo camper in the bush, staying overnight. I don't have issues with that. But when it comes to animals that are attacking, or like we say, Sasquatch, no. You're not comfortable, get out of there. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But there's a lot of people that can talk bravado, and maybe some people would chase it down. I can't say, but I'm very skeptical that I'd watch a new person walk and, hey, run after a Sasquatch. I doubt it very highly. I doubt it.
The only person I know who'd actually go up is Samantha Mowat.
Okay.
She is fearless.
Well, she wanted to touch the doll, she said yesterday, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, she is absolutely fearless. Yeah. And I wish I had her strength. I really do. I think I'm her Shaggy to her being, my Daphne.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
And I say Daphne because of the red hair that Samantha has.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, man, I often laugh at these people who have never been out in the forest.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know a forest like ours. Okay. They may think of forest as, maybe their town has a hill that has, a bunch of trees in it with some walking trails through it.
Sure.
When you are in the jungle, which is what we are in.
Yeah.
Okay. We just don't call them jungles in North America.
That's right.
If it was on every other continent, we'd call it a jungle.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. But you're in the jungle where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you've been there.
Yeah.
How quickly I'll tell you one story at our original Sasquatch site,
Right.
which got torn up
Mhm.
by a bunch of loggers,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Mhm.
That area there, it was only maybe 250 feet from the logging road.
Right.
And I went in there one day with 6 other people.
Okay.
I couldn't find my way out.
Ew.
250 feet. I knew exactly where the tracks were,
Mhm.
where our gifting site was.
Mhm.
But when I started looking around, all of a sudden, I didn't know which way was out. And I started to
Ooh.
panic
Yeah. Oh,
because I had my son there, I had my daughter there, my father-in-law there, his girlfriend
yeah.
there.
Oh, okay.
All right. Mrs. SOR was there.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything to anybody.
No.
But I really started to panic. And I was like, what do I do here?
Mhm.
How do we get out?
Mhm.
And what saved us was I heard a truck coming up the logging road.
Thank gosh, right?
Right. And then all of a sudden I snapped out of that fear,
Mhm.
out of that anxiety and panic.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, focus. This is the way out.
Yeah.
This is the way out.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. And I had been to that place at that time 30, 35 times.
Yeah. Doesn't take much. I mean, similar. I like I said, I've been hunting and in the bush ever since I was a kid. We went to my uncle had shot a bear, he figured. So we went in and we were looking for this bear, and maybe about same distance in as you, maybe a little bit further. I turned around, completely lost. Right. I was like, I don't know how to get out of here. And then, so that panic, relating to that panic, I get that. And yeah, it's not fun. And like you said earlier, being in there, and even last night you said, oh, I'm a chicken, right? You're not a chicken. You're trusting your gut. You're trusting your instincts. And if it's uncomfortable for you, no, you can be a hero, but if you don't want to go in there, or if you don't want to go any further, if you want to leave, get the heck out. Nobody's ever going to fault you for that. And that's, I mean, even everybody that's listening or that goes out and does their own thing and looks for whatever it is. If you're not comfortable, don't be afraid to leave. Right? Just trust your gut.
A lot of people don't understand how dangerous the forest is. And that was the point of my Dave 101,
Mm-hmm.
was to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some UFOs here, because we got about 6 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour.
Sure.
What Washington State has an anniversary?
72nd anniversary of the Washington Flap. So back in, I guess, what is it? July 12th to 29th. I'm looking at notes. 1952 was when Washington, D.C. had the mass influx of UFOs flying over top. So in 4 years previous to this date, the United States Air Force had received, 615 reports in 4 years. So the highlight of this period was the 19th and the 20th. So this weekend, 72 years ago, and then the 26th and 27th. In those 4 days, 717 reports went to the Air Force, and they started.
And that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I love little anniversaries like that.
It's cool.
We just celebrated Roswell a couple of weeks ago, World UFO Day. Prior to that, Kenneth Arnold incident.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that seems to happen this year. And you know what? There's all of these little dates out there that we need to pay attention to for the UFO report. And that's something that and you and I teaching you how to do the UFO report. That's one of the things that we are looking for, is those little anniversary dates, so we could just wave the happy birthday flag or happy anniversary flag on it, right?
And they're cool, historic. I mean, obviously it's an anniversary, so it's, but they're historic things that have happened. And for me, I like that sort of stuff too, because I can go back and I'm sure everybody's heard the stories 1,000 times, and some people haven't. So it's good information. It's good to go back and see what they were doing back then and what they thought and how they dismissed everything, right? And and even when they formed, what was it, the Patrick report or whatever it was, during that, I guess the people on the Patrick panel that told the United States Air Force and Project Blue Book that they needed to spend less time investigating the UFO sightings and more time debunking them because the media was getting carried away with it.
Well, it also goes to show how long the military, and at that point it was the U.S. Army Air Force, and turning into the Air Force, has been dealing with these topics.
I know, right?
And not only that, but chasing these things. You know, I mean, for anybody like Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who we're going to get into a little bit later, to say there's nothing there, there's no there, if we use a 21st century quote.
Yeah.
There is there.
Of course.
They've been doing it. You know, it's ridiculous when we see that actually happening. It really is.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I mean, when we look at something that long, like all of these UFO reports, like you said, there were over 672 that kicked off that in Washington State. I mean, how ridiculous is that to say, oh, well, the Air Force really hasn't checked much of this out. We don't take it very seriously.
Now, it's all hallucination, and it's all, it's funny looking back at the old excuses that they used. And I guess, you know, a lot of the people were content with that. And it was national security. Everything was national security, right? So, like I say, these dates are kind of fun, and they go back and research them and read over them again. I like it. It's cool.
What's your favorite UFO anniversary?
Ooh. I don't know if I have a favorite UFO anniversary. I really don't. I find I'm not really good at remembering dates and stuff like that, but what I do find is that there's stories and my brain needs to be refreshed. So it depends on what it is. And you'll be sitting around and I'll be going down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden it's like, I completely forgot about these people or whatever. So I can't really say that I have one. You?
I would say mine would either be Roswell or Shag Harbor.
Okay.
Shag Harbor's in October. This will be the 57th anniversary of Shag Harbor coming up.
Okay.
And I still think, I don't care what anybody says, I think if we went into that harbor where the UFO went into the water, I think there's still pieces down there. And I think if anybody could ever afford it, because it would be a very expensive expedition, I would love to send a submarine down there.
That'd be interesting. That would be totally interesting. Huh. Roswell, though. Yeah, Roswell's just fascinating in itself. I mean, there's so much. And but like I say, I can't really name anything that's a favorite. I like them all. They all have they all have their keys, right?
Oh, I understand exactly what you're saying. I totally understand exactly what you're saying. Everyone is unique
there it
in
is.
its own way.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it chilling. But I don't think people understand that there's a lot of anniversaries out there. You know, I just wish we would have one more, Tim. Something that's recent. You know what I'm saying? I want something recent, because all of these cases are so 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
Maybe the odds one in the 70s. Okay, you got Pascagoula in the 70s and 80s, and Travis Walton and all of those. But I would love something this century.
I agree.
Where we could grasp our teeth into. I don't think the drones one is it.
No.
But I think we need that.
Yeah,
I agree. We need that. Come on, there's got to be a farmer out there somewhere who has a UFO crash in their land right now.
I'm sure there is.
Probably. Let's hold that thought. When we return on Spaced Out Radio for the final half hour, we're going to get into another few comments from Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Spaced Out Radio.
This is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
love that guitar solo.
I know.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Good old Shawnee boy.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Shawnee boy. Tamara Johnson, welcome to SOR Chat.
I'm always worried about pulling your shirt off the wall here.
Oh, geez, move the freaking chair.
I have, but then I lean like this.
Well, move
Yo,
the
yo, yo.
microphone. Move the camera. Hot damn, man. We cleaned off the desk.
I know.
We got to put something on that wall behind you, though.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put it
This weekend. This
Okay.
weekend we'll do
Yep.
it.
Yep.
We'll make your area nice.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Here we
I mean,
go.
I already gave you the 2 carvings from the Michael Leger. The. Yeah.
I feel like I'm being watched.
I thought about taking that Sasquatch head
Mm-mm.
out into the forest just to see,
What?
but I love it too much. I don't want to wreck it.
No. Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. He hand carved that too, eh? And the gnome. The gnome is me.
Okay, yeah.
Here, grab the gnome for a sec. That gnome is all one piece and it's me.
That's cool.
Yeah, show the camera. Right there.
It's wee Davy.
Yeah. It's pretty cool, eh?
It is.
I don't know. I never in my life would have that much talent.
Or patience.
Right?
Right. I got gifted some carving tools once.
Scott Slomka. Welcome to SOR Chat. How you doing? Grab the Sasquatch head there. It's heavy. It's got a good weight to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it like that. Actually, that's an improvement. Actually, if you held it up beside yourself, it actually looked. God, there is a similarity there.
Yeah, unfortunately. That is cool, though.
It's a great carving.
To the captain, all the best in 23. You're sort of okay. Michael,
The Michael Leger. He's the original The.
No, is he?
Then the Doug Shelby came around. I always thought it was badass when I worked in sports radio.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I got to know this one player on the BC Lions. His name was Brent Johnson.
Yep.
And so, where'd you go to school? He goes, the Ohio State. I said, oh, you went to Ohio State? No, I went to the Ohio State because that's the legal name of the university.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know
The Ohio
Okay.
State. Yes.
The Ohio State.
I worked in sports radio for almost 10 years. You think you get a facelift for radio by not being on the radio? Hold on. Vanessa, be nice.
What is she?
It's called human. Be respectful. That's a shot at me.
Oh.
Be respectful. Not going to be respectful. Why? This is my show.
I could do it. I won't.
I could do what I want. Lex Diaz, how are you?
What's that? I can't read it.
I'll be darned, Dave. I'll be darned. Worst mistake I ever made on the radio one day was calling baseball scores, and my eyes just got twisted up in the scores. I called the Chicago White Sox the Chicago Whitecocks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was funny.
Yeah, well.
Uh-huh. Tim, I already did, man. That's why I said, hi, Tamara Johnson. Welcome to SOR Chat. Times 2 now. Don't part the goatee, Tim. Don't part the goatee.
I'll do my best.
Thank you tonight to Forrest Louie with a hat trick of super chats. Marty Burback, Necessary Dialogue, and Noble Patrick. And Tamara Johnson, welcome to SOR Chat.
Hey, Tamara Johnson.
There's a hat trick right there.
There you got her. That ain't a Gertie Hauer.
Oh. 5 seconds. All right, we're into the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. To use a baseball term, we've rounded third and we're headed for home. My name is Dave Scott. It's the UFO Report. Little Timmy James is here, hanging on out with us. We're going to get into Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick momentarily because he made another bunch of silly comments on another podcast out there. We'll get into that, Tim. We'll get into that. But first, if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives because you know why?
Why?
They're always free, Tim.
No way.
There are other shows out there that charge you for them.
No.
$5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, $99 a year.
And yours are free?
Mine are free.
You're the best.
I am the best.
Man,
I am. You could also hit us up on YouTube or Twitch.
There you go.
You know the only thing I want in return for that?
What's that?
Just hit follow, subscribe, whatever it is.
No, you don't subscribe.
That's free. It's all free.
That's right.
It's all. I think that's a fair trade.
I
I work my ass off for the listeners.
Yeah.
And then they get to hit subscribe and listen to us anytime for free.
What a deal.
It's a great deal.
I think so.
It's a great deal.
But wait, there's more.
Not really. Not really. I'm Canadian and Ukrainian, man. I'm cheap.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
Okay. I am cheap. I'm like 99% of Canadians right now. Too bad in debt right now to give it anything away.
Feeling you, brother.
That's right. That's right. All right. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. What did Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick do to put his foot in his mouth once again, Tim?
So I posted the interview on my X account. So it's under Tim James on X. So you can go in there anytime and have a look at it. It's an hour and 10 minutes long. And so I'm not going to go into an hour and 10 minutes of all this stuff, but he starts off the interview. Got my notes. Starts off the interview by saying that Arrow found no evidence of any of the allegations that are alleged in the last UAPDA bill. So he states that when their group went to look and investigate and follow up and do everything that they could with all these allegations, his words were that he states he had access to everything there was to have access to. So I'm just thinking about that last sentence. He had access to everything that there was access to. So to me, that doesn't really answer doesn't say, yeah, no, we investigated everything and we went to, it just says we were allowed through the doors. In my mind, this is just me. We went through the doors we were allowed to go through and we found nothing. Duh. Right. That's just the way I wasn't surprised. So his next thing is that he says that all the witness allegations were investigated with regards to a hidden program, and all, I underline all, allegations turned out to have nothing to do with hidden programs. All of them had turned out to be other things. So what other things? And he also added that all allegations and findings, this is a quote, all allegations and findings have been turned over to Congress. So it's just like, okay, so this is the way he started it off. And I thought, okay, this is going to be an hour and another hour of my life that I'll never get back. It was like, okay. And he was dealing with, and I hate saying his last name, Merrick von Rennekampf, I think is how you pronounce his last name, was doing the interview. And I was just like, yeah, it was almost too much. He's got a bit of Kirkpatrick, to me, and this is my opinion, has a weird superiority complex, and he just kind of poo-poos. And if you watch the interview, you'll see it. You'll see he just kind of, listen to me.
So one of the things that you pointed out through in what you were saying so far is that he really said, and I believe he had access. But what did he have access to?
My point.
Okay. Did he have access to all the Air Force files? Did he have access to all the FAA files?
Right.
Did he have access to the Navy files, the Army files, the Marine files? All right. We know that they haven't played the game. The only one who attempted to play the game was the Navy.
Right.
And they shut it down.
Right.
So did they shut him down too? I mean, this is what we don't know.
Exactly.
Okay. Like you were just saying in the last half hour about, the anniversary of the big sightings in Washington State back 60, 70 years ago. Okay. Where there were 672 sightings. Where are those?
Yeah.
Did he read those?
Yeah.
Right. What about the newer reports? But, was there anything out in there about Congress, about whether or not why they never called him to task in one of these hearings?
He said that very briefly, he had said that when he went to report to Congress and whatever, he reported 3 times or something like that. And he didn't get into it. He just kind of, he's just saying, yeah, I even with everything that I saw and what I've reported. So no, the answer to that question is, as far as I saw and I heard, they never really held him to task. I think they were just kind of happy with, okay, he's done his job, because as he said, he called them, and again, his words, Congress put Arrow on missions. And so he used missions through his interview quite a lot. And I think it's just a terminology, in my opinion, again, it just made it look like these are missions and not just, okay.
Okay. So my question, if I was that guy, because a lot of these people do is they go to podcasters who aren't journalists, who don't know how to ask follow-up questions. My follow-up question would have been to Kirkpatrick then would be, what were these missions? Because you can give a statement without giving detail towards national security.
Right.
What were they?
Yeah. Nothing.
Okay.
Well,
I'm on a mission to find out.
Yeah.
You're on a mission to find out. We're on missions right now.
Yep.
Right. This is what doesn't make sense. But I agree with you that he tends to have a sense of arrogance, of pompousness to him. He's already spoke on this. UFO people are dumb. There's nothing in the coffers that we're going to give you, even though a bunch of videos have come out that we can't explain.
That's right.
And people who've been waving the UFO flag for a while continue to wave that flag. I'm surprised he's still talking about it. I really am.
Well, in the very little, like, getting to watch him, I mean, and I'm not like some sort of super judge of personality, but he just seemed to have, like you said, that arrogance about him. And I just say, oh, this guy's just going to be one of those, right? He did. Yeah, no, they don't know what they're talking about. What I found, not bothered me, but what I found is he likes to make it look like everybody else was scrambling and was inefficient at their jobs. And he was waiting to do everything he could, right? So even when he went after, he said, basically, I mean, and I had to nutshell this because he was on about Schumer, but there was a lot of words, I guess, as you would know as a journalist, there was a lot of words and not a lot of substance. So you had to get through all his BS, my opinion, and get to what he was saying. So basically he's saying that Schumer, his staffers and their witnesses aren't physicists and should stay in their lanes, in their own lanes, because they have no idea what they're looking at. And I'm like, oh, okay, that was kind of rude, whatever. So
well, then tell us.
Yeah. Right.
Tell us what are we missing? What are we missing? Oh, I can't tell you. That's the answer to everything. I can't tell you.
No, his answer to that was what he was saying is what was his quote? Oh, it was so good. Nothing would have made me happier than to find evidence of this. That would have been fantastic, but it does not exist. This is a quote. Nobody wants to believe it doesn't exist. That was his stamp on it, right? His big thing was that he started pointing at the people that were pushing this bill and were putting, adding to the bill. His big thing was that these people could not provide one solid piece of evidence for him to go on. That's all he's been waiting for.
There's the answer.
That's it, right?
Okay, so what he's saying then, to break it down for our audience, he's not taking anecdotal stories of eyewitness testimony.
That's right.
Into his account, or he's not taking any sort of reports on it either. He wants the evidence of videos that correlate with everything, and it's just not there. But I mean, you look at the 2004 Nimitz incident, the majority of the people who witnessed that watched a helicopter land on the aircraft carrier to take away the tapes where this incident had recorded whatever it was that we know the tic-tac.
Yeah.
How often has that happened? Okay.
Exactly.
And this is why, my good friend Paul, who used to live in town here, he spent 3 years in the Navy.
Okay.
They had a UFO incident about 200 miles off the coast of Vancouver Island while they were heading up to Alaska for training. And they followed this craft, whatever it was, for about 25, 30 minutes on radar. It was literally about 50 feet above the ocean and cruising.
Oh, okay.
All right. Like if a tidal wave came, it would have hit this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were cruising in the same direction towards Alaska. Long story short, his commanding officer the next morning came up and said, the best thing for your career is you didn't see anything. If we file a report on this, we're all going to be in trouble and our careers are over. Right?
And
I could see a lot of that happening with Kirkpatrick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He, like I say, I'm not going to bash the guy. I had not the greatest feeling about him, I would say. And I just I had a negative feeling toward him, and he had a bit of arrogance about him. And but check out the interview if you have time, if you feel like it, it's better when you watch it than me trying to explain it to you. I'm trying to bring it as best as I can to you, but I don't want to persuade anybody one way or the other, make it, Tim on SOR said, no, I'm just giving you the info, and if you research it yourself and have a look. What else was there? So yeah, he was on about it, and it just seemed to be pointing the finger, and I would have liked to have. And he also stated that with that group, with Schumer's, I guess, what do you call them? There's his staffers, and then the witnesses and the people below the staffers. He just basically said that they just go around in a circle. The staffers tell them, get this information, and then they tell other staffers, and then it goes to Schumer, and then it goes back down to the bottom. And I can't remember the terminology used, but it was a circle. You just called it a circle. It just keeps doing the same thing over and over again. So what I found very strange was that at the end, he states, well, before I retired, or just after I retired, we'd finished the missions that Congress had given us, and we turned everything in. And he goes, these people that are with Schumer and backing Schumer want the same answers that we do. They basically just, what do you say? Nobody asked for a briefing. That's what it was. Schumer didn't even come up to him and ask for a briefing.
But why?
Yeah.
If you're not providing detail, you're not going into detail.
Yeah.
Which you didn't go into any detail when you sat in front of Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and gave nothing for 90 minutes the largest nothing burger
Yeah.
that we've had ever in any UFO hearing.
Yeah.
You believe we're wasting time. You're saying that you're convinced there's nothing out there. What's the point of talking to you?
Yeah.
Okay, because you're already convinced.
Yeah, for
Whereas
sure.
there are people out there who've had encounters. Okay, you've scared the whistleblowers to death
Mm-hmm.
about their testimony about what could happen.
Yeah.
Because we tend to forget those people have mortgages.
Yeah.
They have children to put through college. They have cable bills. They have food to eat and gas to put in the tank. They're not wasting their career for Sean Kirkpatrick.
No.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised that, and how did he put it? They never, that was it. They never asked the question. So Arrow was never given the opportunity to answer, but yet they want to keep adding legislation. And I'm like, yeah, but did you call him? I don't know. I just find it was like, yeah, this Arrow thing and Kirkpatrick, I'm going to actually go back and rewatch it because there was so much. And I remember a point during the interview, I was like, this guy's such a jerk. And then I'd get caught up in that and I wasn't listening to what he was saying, some of it. But yeah, I'm going to go back and rewatch it. But he's got nothing good to say and nothing to say at all besides the old cover his behind, I guess, right? And the other thing he states too, he says, okay, go ahead. He says he's all for this new, the new bill that they put in, the Schumer-Rounds bill, right? So he's all for it. He doesn't have a problem with it. But he says, if it goes through, he goes, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Everybody's going to go, okay, so what do you want to see? What do you like he just goes into this. Yeah. Nobody's going to know what they're supposed to be turning over, what they're supposed to be looking at, what they're supposed to be giving. Like he pretends like everybody on the outside of this is all going, I don't get it.
Right. So apparently during that interview, so we got about 4.5 minutes left, Sean Kirkpatrick mentioned something about whistleblower David Grush, that he had received, that Arrow had received portions of his Inspector General complaint that did not deal with retaliation. In other words, and the allegedly juicy CR stuff we all want to know about. Kirkpatrick said the data that was provided, we cross-referenced with what we already know because we had interviewed most of the people that he had already talked to, and there was nothing new. Right? If there was nothing new, why were you saying he never came to me?
Right. Exactly.
That he never responded. We asked for him to come talk. He never responded. Why would you say that if there was nothing new?
No, exactly.
I mean, if you have 5 people come up to you and say, Tim, your wife's coffee or your wife's tea at her coffee shop is fantastic. You're going to believe after 5 people it's fantastic.
Yeah, of course.
You don't need to hear that 6th witness to say it's fantastic.
Right. No, exactly. It's just, I'm flabbergasted, and there's a lot of stuff that's actually surprising me about this, but I just watching him and him trying to explain himself and, doing his shaking his head and kind of, doing his little when being asked some of the questions. I don't know. I don't know how much truth it is. I don't know what he's doing. I just found that it was like, man, did you guys really do anything?
Right. And David Grush back on June 7th actually stated that, I'll read the transcript here. I am not aware of any of the 40 primary interview subjects that form the basis of my ICIG whistleblower complaint having gone to Arrow to be interviewed. The witnesses conveyed to me a lack of trust in Arrow and the command climate. I am only aware of 3 individuals with mostly secondhand knowledge that were interviewed by Arrow that I also spoke with some years back during my research process. Those individuals did produce some interesting leads I followed, but it appears Arrow did not have the expertise to distill the information they were given, as it should have provided them large access to a large body of foreign intelligence and other U.S. program information I had access to, which is not reflected in the Arrow Historical Report, Volume 1. Senator Kristen Gillibrand does not have access to my witness list. so I'm unaware how the senator allegedly has made any assessment in that regard. Right there.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
tells you. So really, we're in a he said, she said divorce.
Oh, 100%. 100%. No question about it. I'm surprised at the way that he answered some of his questions. And I love, I mean, I was in a corporate world for 30 years and I watched, the finger pointing and it just brought me right back. I was like, man, this is so textbook corporate and government, whatever you want. It's just like, no.
Gary Nolan, the head scientist of the Soul Foundation and Stanford University, says this is kind of how the interview went down. Number one, we asked the front desk clerk if they had any UAP under wraps in a secret facility. Number two, the desk clerk wiped his nose on his sleeve, picked up a phone, pressed the big red alert button on it, waited until someone picked up, and whispered some unheard words into the phone. Number three, after a few moments, he said, yes, then looked at us and said, the boss says no. I think that's a good way to wrap it right up.
I think so. Good point. Good way to do it.
Gary Nolan showing his humor there. Not only is he smart, but humorous.
That's right.
Humorous.
Oh.
Not the bone humorous. Right?
Yeah.
Tim, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you,
you
sir.
Keep getting better and better each time.
I'm
So I
trying.
appreciate that. I hope our audience starts showing you some love too. I know they already have.
Yeah, for sure. And I promise it'll get better.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be real good. So we really do appreciate you coming on in. And
no problem.
The one thing I love about Tim, guys, he's local. He's just down the road.
That's right.
He's just down the road. And I think it's more fun to have somebody in studio as well. Tim, thank you very much for a great UFO report.
Not a problem, sir.
As we start to wind things down and say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, and hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, guess what, Tim? We got room for them, too. Good night, everybody. Did you know our show times out at 2 hours, 53 minutes, 54 seconds?
No way.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time is taco time.
Here we go again. Taco time.
I think we do have to go to 7-Eleven after this.
Up to you, man.
Or Timmy's, one of the two. Do I go on a cafe or a cream soda?
Oh, I can't do no cafe.
Oh, I could do a cafe right now. Get some wind going. I'm hot.
It's cooled down substantially.
Substantially. Yeah. Reminder, everybody, that we will be dark for the next 2 weeks, but Element 115 with Jackson and Lee will be going on Friday nights. Jessica Jones will be on Sunday. We'll try and throw on some other shows on there for you guys to tune in, so that way you guys could come play with us as excuse me. That was a
Uh-oh.
burp.
Pizza.
Yeah, that was one of them hiccup burps, you know.
Oh,
One of
those
them
hurt.
pizza hiccup burps
Those hurt.
that says, "Hey, in exactly 6 minutes and 38 seconds, you're getting heartburn."
That's it.
That was the one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That was
I
the
hate
one.
those.
Oh yeah. And just like, oh come on, you son of a gun. Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks again, everybody. Appreciate all the comments. So we got to do that garden rake. Who was the one that said something about the garden rake? Was that Leon? The other night?
No, it was
He doesn't know a UFO from a garden.
I said that.
Was it you?
I said
Oh, I
that.
thought somebody had said so. Okay.
I forget who I said that about.
Me.
Oh, that was about. Oh, that was, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All the love at the SOR studio.
Yeah. Dude can't be. Doesn't know a UFO from a garden ring. That's right. That's funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was funny. Not gonna lie, that was funny. And you can't. I'm not taking it back either.
No, nice burn.
Yeah. So the embarrassing part for me tomorrow is I have a number of people whom I work with, including my new boss,
Oh no.
who are coming to the ghost tour tomorrow night. Mandatory that they go in my group.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Them ghosts better damn well perform.
No kidding.
Otherwise, I'm going to look like an idiot.
So is it all the new staff or is it just staff in general?
One of the salespeople, and the new boss, and one of his workers that he brought up from the coast.
Oh, okay. So it's not like
yeah.
some of the parts guys that we know are okay. Gotcha.
No, not them. Are you kidding me? They're caribou, man. They're going to the lake.
It's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
wouldn't.
totally caribou.
Well, they'll be there now. It's Friday night.
I would go jump in the lake right now. It's warm enough. I'm not skinny dipping with
Not
it.
in our lake. What?
No, I'm not. I'd jump in 108.
She'd be a little warm.
I know, but you know how good that would feel?
Yeah. I don't know. You know how many goose poops?
Every lake has goose shit in it. Every lake has.
That was a Beach Boy song.
Oh, Vanta Black has returned. It's 8 a.m. where she is.
Oh, my
Vanta.
goodness.
Hey, there's Sweet Robbie G.
Robbie G.
We call him Sweets around here because he's just so damn delicious. He's delicious. Delicious Robbie G.
Run.
The delicious Robbie G.
Run, Rob. Run.
Now, there's no Bigfoot in that area
Where?
where 108 Lake is.
Heck no. Across the street, maybe. Nah, maybe not even there.
No. There's ghosts there.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of ghosts.
Darn street.
Darn tootin'.
Woohoo.
Yeah. You know what my 2024 American word of the year is?
No.
Hootenanny.
Hoot nanny.
Yeah.
I used to like shenanigans.
Yeah. Hootenanny is my American word of the year.
We're going to hell.
I never knew what a hootenanny was. I still really don't know what a hootenanny is.
I just remember from Bugs Bunny when I was a kid. The cartoons. We're having a hoot nanny.
Definition of a hootenanny. Well, I spelled it wrong. Hootenanny.
Yeah, careful what you read.
All right. A social gathering or informal concert featuring folk singing and sometimes dancing, or an informal session at which folk singers and instrumentalists perform.
All right. So it's a jam.
Yeah.
All right.
What does the phrase hootenanny mean?
Mhm.
Same thing.
Okay.
We're getting there.
It's a hoot nanny.
I would do one of them hootenannies.
For sure.
I want to be the guy who blows into the old jar, whiskey jar.
So you could be on the Andy Griffith show.
I could totally could. I totally could. I'd get Sweet Robbie G.
Mhm.
He'd be my bass player because all he would do is pull his chin hair down and give like a couple of chin hair twigs, you know?
Yeah. That's funny. Hootenanny. Now it's going to be.
If I'm having a band, Sweet Robbie G is playing that chin hair for me. I want to be on the microphone and all the chin hair.
Yep.
Sweet Robbie G.
I'll get the washboard and a spoon.
He types in, I can play bass.
He can?
I guess so. He's a
good.
talented guy, man.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a set of keyboards once because I wanted to learn how to play them.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, it was okay. And I was just like, yeah, my daughter took them. I couldn't get into them, but I had guitars and basses and stuff all over the house. But yeah, keyboard, I thought this would be interesting. And it was for a very short time. And I never was very good at reading music. So everything was through my ear and learned by ear and from friends and stuff. But when I had to look and you had to read a treble clef and a bass clef at the same time and get your right hand to play one thing and your left hand to play the other and reading two different lines of music, I was like, yeah, no, I'm good. Not going to happen.
UFO Hootenanny t-shirts coming up.
Ooh.
Remind me of that on Sunday.
UFO Hootenanny.
Yeah. Dave, do you know any Spanish-speaking Sasquatch researchers that may want to appear in a podcast down here in Mexico? Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, Jesus Payan. Try Jesus Payan. I knew it. I knew one, a couple. That's the first name. Jesus Payan. Payan.
Wouldn't that be Jesus?
No, I asked him that one day.
Okay.
He said, Jesus? He goes, no, it's Jesus.
Really? Okay.
He used to star on, he did a few episodes of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
I love that show.
Never seen one episode.
Of either?
Of either, yeah. I'm an either guy, not an either guy.
Yeah.
Unless it's me either.
Yeah. Okay. Me either?
Yeah.
No.
Me either sounds way too pretentious.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I like them both. Like them both.
Either or, either or.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do tomato, though.
No.
I don't do tomato.
Or orange.
Or potato. Don't do that either.
Yeah. Sound like Mr. Howell.
Felipe, did you get that? Not seeing his response. Yeah, do that. He's on my Facebook page, Felipe. Good morning, Castle Dude. Yes, potato, not potato.
Vanessa, Mater sandwich. Yep. I like bacon tomato sandwiches. Miracle Whip or Mayo Guy?
Don't care.
Really?
Don't care. I can't tell the difference.
Really?
Really?
Oops.
One's more tangy than the other. That's all I know.
Yeah, I can't do Miracle Whip.
I like a little bit of tang.
Yeah. Yeah. No, my wife does too. She's told I make BLTs for supper or whatever, and the same thing. I'm like, I'm the mayo guy. She's the Miracle Whip.
You know what whip. My dad pronounces H's after
Right.
W's.
Right?
So all of a sudden when he does that,
Yeah.
I'll be like, what? Where?
I know.
And you know the best part about it is he hasn't caught on yet.
No.
No.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, he hasn't caught on yet.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Pronounce the H.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Or Uranus or Uranus,
Oh my goodness.
right?
Yeah. I think if you're over the age of 12, it doesn't matter.
I was watching on Facebook, they had this reel where this guy on the back of a t-shirt
Mhm.
had what do they call them? Squares that are on everything now that you put your phone up to.
Oh, yeah. I know
Yeah,
what you're talking
you know there are.
Yeah.
And so this lady who's filming him put her phone up to see what it said. It was a big sign that pops up on her screen, F you or F off or something like that. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, that is good.
Will Wheaton. That's right.
Oh, yeah. Bazinga.
I wish they would have continued that show.
Well, what did he have? He had 3 shows going at the same time. What's the guy, the producer's
Well,
name?
they had young Sheldon.
They had
Jim Parsons was the one who got it canceled. They were scheduled to do 2 more seasons.
Oh, okay.
And then Jim Parsons just showed up one day and said, I don't want to do it anymore because the show was based around him and Johnny Galecki, right?
Yeah.
Or Johnny Gillespie.
Yeah.
I could just use more. What the hell? I forget.
Yeah, that's all right. Been a long week.
Kaylee Cuoco.
Oh,
I could use more Kaylee Cuoco in my life.
Well, she was on before she was on. Oh my good God! Now
With John Ritter.
Yes, that's right. And the one from. See, I'm bagged. I can't remember names at all. Katie Seagal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And John Ritter and then John Ritter suddenly died.
And then they brought in David Spade.
David Spade is not funny.
Not at all.
He is like Pauly Shore, not funny.
Well, yeah, but Pauly Shore, the only reason Pauly Shore is his mom used to own the comedy club in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right?
They forced people to think he's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob Saget, not funny.
No, not at all.
You know who sometimes comes into our chat room at least once or twice a month and nobody knows? Do you remember Brett Butler?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she comes into our chat room.
No way.
I'm not going to say her name.
No.
Because she's hidden, but I know she's in there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was on that show in the 90s, wasn't she?
Yeah. Saving Grace.
That's right. Yeah.
I always think it's funny because most people in our chat room use an alias.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought, who's really listening?
Right.
Like 90% of them are people who are just sitting at home right now or in their vehicles
Sure.
or whatever.
Sure.
But I always wonder, like, what if it's that one person, like some major music star or athlete or
Spielberg tuned in.
whoever, right?
Yeah.
Who are like, oh man, I love this show, but I'm not going to give up I'm not going to tell anybody my identity because I don't need them to know. I don't need Dave trying to, hey, put me in a movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I get it, but no, you're probably. I mean,
I've always wondered that.
Yeah.
I've always wondered that. That they just found a safe space in our chat room.
Sure.
Where they could just talk UFOs or Bigfoot or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? That's what it's all about.
Was it Saving Grace or Grace Under Fire?
Grace Under Fire.
Grace Under Fire.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've often wondered that.
I would too. Yeah, it's for sure. And I mean, it's not it's it's plausible. Obviously,
Not that I care, but I
It's
just
just
want
cool.
to know. I just
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
I know there's been a few rock stars listen to this show.
Mm-hmm.
That I do know because of Bumblefoot and
Sure.
and all that.
Yeah.
You know, so
What was I watching? I think I talked about it before with you. It was Sammy Hagar. Who was interviewing him when Love Walks In?
yeah.
Right. It's recent, and he went through the whole song, and it's like, yeah, and very, very super UFO. What was it? He was talking about his experiences too, that when he was taken.
Mhm.
I can't remember now. Very good. Like, dig around. I mean, if anybody else, well, there's people. Still
There's a few interviews about it.
Yeah.
So Thumper comes into our chat room. I am Batman. My response, I am Pam. I am Pam.
Haven't seen her the last couple of nights either. Unless she's changed her name and she's hiding. And Bill WD-40. No news.
Mm-hmm. I am Pam. Sweet Robbie G is Pam too. Tim's too new to be Pam.
That's right.
He's
Pammy. He's FNG.
Let's check out the BC wildfire map.
Oh, God.
Let's see.
Well, the one behind your house is out, or our place, whatever, you know what I mean?
More closer to your house than my house.
Yeah, true.
Here, I'll put it up on the screen
Okay.
here. Hold on.
Lily Pad Lake.
I don't even know where the hell that is. Isn't that in the 105?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even know how to get to Helena Lake. I've never found the entrance to Helena Lake.
Oh, really?
Never.
Oh, okay.
Share screen. If you want to know what British Columbia is like tonight, well, let's take a little peeky poo here.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Let's make the screen big.
Yeah, Helena Lake's up right station.
Here, let's zoom on in. The old Caribou region. So all those red dots are fires that are out of control. The yellow dots are being held. And the green dots are under control.
We're still looking okay.
So let's go check out. Well, there's only the one in our area. Only one.
Yeah, and I think that's at Lily Pad.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, because that's Helena Lake right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, that's Lily Pad Lake. So
Yeah.
it's in between Lily Pad Lake. Oh, hell, this thing's nowhere close to us.
No. I think they had them last year, too, at Lily Pad.
Did they?
Yeah, and then the one, what was it? A couple of
hell?
years ago when it was on the ridge behind us here
Uh-huh.
and all that smoke, that was, again.
Oh, there's a fire out by Alkali Lake, too.
Yeah.
Okay. That place is haunted.
Is it?
They actually, I was talking to one of the members of the reserve there,
Mm-hmm.
and he was telling me before Alkali Lake got, was it Alkali Lake? Hold on, I might be getting them confused.
Yeah. There's only a few lakes around here.
Somewhere out there by Alkali Lake, the band,
Mhm.
before they got electricity, they'd have dogmen coming in, rummaging through the towns, through the town before. Yeah.
Okay.
So at nighttime, all the kids would have to be
In the house?
inside because the dogmen would come.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not bad. Just one by us.
Yeah.
Where's the one down in Ashcroft? Oh, it's a fire of interest right there.
Yep.
So we call a wildfire. No, oh, it's under control there. That ain't it. Hold on, that's along the Fraser. Where's the highway here?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, that's it right there.
Mhm.
Oh, that's the section. That's
like ski hist and stuff again, right?
That's right by
Oh, there it is.
way up on the mountain there.
Yeah.
That's where the fire tower is, way up on top of the mountain.
How ironic.
Go figure. Oh, that
Mhm.
thing's huge.
Yep.
That's big.
So what's that? Like the third year in a row through that
Hold on, where-
stretch?
Where are we here? Okay, that's Linton. So where's the river? Oh, there's the river.
Yeah.
Okay, well, where's Spence's Bridge here? Okay, so we've gone through all that stuff. This is, by the way, this part here, people, Tim will agree with me. From Lytton here that burned down a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
This whole strip right through here
Oh,
is the most beautiful drive you will ever see.
yeah.
Right to about here where you cross the bridge.
Yes.
So Spence's Bridge. Okay, so there's okay, so it's just north of Spence's Bridge. All right. Oh, that's where it starts. Hold on 1 second here.
I'm trying to look through this light.
Well, move the
That's
light.
what I'm doing, man.
Can you see the light? Oh, then you knock your camera down. You piece of poo. You piece of poo.
Did it break yet?
Hold on. Now I got to go back to the screen here. Oh, it's not. Hold on. Yeah, good placement, by the way.
Thank you.
They can't see you.
That's okay.
But good placement. Hold on 1 second here. I got to do this for a second. I got to load this up here. Hold on. There we go. All right, this started. There we go. Okay.
Oh, Robbie G.
Where's Robbie?
He disagrees. California Pacific Coast
Oh,
Highway.
he disagrees with everything.
Does he?
You got to realize
is
he likes basketball and soccer. He doesn't like hockey.
So he's just difficult.
He's difficult.
Okay, just
Extremely difficult.
haven't met him yet, but I'm
This is the kind of guy who cooks up eggs for dinner.
okay. I can't blame him for that though.
Yes, you can. Nobody should have breakfast.
What? Breakfast for
Are we going to go right here? Are we going to go?
Let's get ready to rumble.
Can't stand breakfast for dinner.
It depends on what it is, actually.
No.
Really, eh?
No,
Not at all.
Not me, man.
No.
There are certain things I'm strict over.
Macaroni.
Macaroni, I can't stand. Fish, I can't stand.
I'm not a big fish guy.
Okay. Quinoa.
Hmm.
And breakfast for dinner.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and pork chops.
What?
Oh, I love pork. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But as a kid,
Oh,
eating pork, mom and dad,
yeah.
it was always pork chops. My dad loved simple meals growing up. So mom would always make him pork chops,
Boiled potatoes.
and corn.
Yep.
Or peas.
Ugh.
Okay, I love peas.
I do too, but
Like, we're talking like 4 nights a week minimum.
were they canned or frozen?
The peas?
Yeah.
Usually in the baggy frozen.
Okay.
I like those.
Yeah, that's okay.
I used to actually take the peas frozen,
Mhm.
just eat them right out of the bag.
Really?
Loved it. Loved it. They made a really good soft crunch.
No. Yeah. And then if you were lucky with the pork chops, did you get like mushroom soup?
Oh yeah, mom would put mushroom
Yeah.
soup on there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it was pork chops with mushroom soup and scalloped potatoes.
Oh, I love scalloped potatoes.
Oh, God, I'm so sick of them.
Yeah.
I haven't had scalloped potatoes in probably 28 years.
Really? Well, my mom used to do that. My mom wasn't the greatest cook when obviously my mom and my dad got divorced when I was little. But when she wasn't the greatest cook, but we never starved. Don't get right. But my stepfather was Ukrainian. And then when he came around, I guess it was like 1978, he taught her how to cook.
Right.
And I was like, what is this thing you call garlic? What is this thing that you call a pierogi? Right.
Love garlic. I don't eat pierogies either.
No.
I'll tell you why. It's a good reason, though. I don't eat pierogies because nothing compares to my grandmother's.
No, they don't.
And so I refuse to eat store-bought pierogies because I got spoiled by my grandmother.
Did you make dessert pierogies as well?
No.
Oh.
She always made, my favorite was potato bacon.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? So.
You ever have kapusta?
No.
Oh my God. Cabbage and kielbasa sausage, rice. Yeah, that's really good too.
Hold on. Oh, you're a jerk, Rob.
What?
He's leaving to go get soul food. You know, honestly, I'm going to say this. I have never tried soul food. I would like to.
Yeah, I don't think I have either.
I would like to. And you know what else I want to try? I want to go for one of them crawfish things in Louisiana.
Ooh,
You know,
yeah,
where
the
they
boil?
the boil there. Dave wants to try that. That looks way too good not to try.
If you go, I don't know I don't know how many times you've been into Seattle. There's a place right on the pier down by Ivers.
Yeah.
And it's called the Crab Pot. And they do that, but they do it with crab and mussels and shrimp and corn and red potatoes. And they just line the table with paper and they come out with those big stainless steel mixing bowls and go, "Whoa," dump it on there and you put a bib on it. Oh,
let's go. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Homemade pickle beets are good. You know what my dad did?
I love pickle beets.
You know what my dad did? Because he'd been cleaning out everything the last year since my mom died.
Sure.
He went and took all of my mom's years of canning. He went and took it and donated it all.
Oh, okay. Well,
my dad got so sick of he hated canning, but my mom loved canning.
Sure.
So they did it together.
Pickled carrots. Go to Country Kitchen. Awesome soul food. I
1 sec. Hey, Sweet Robbie G, I'm gonna give you a call tomorrow afternoon, probably around dinner time. I'll call you on Facebook Messenger. He's sweets. Love that guy. Love that guy.
No, I've never been down to Country Kitchen that I can recall, but we used to go to Seattle all the time and hit some of the different restaurants. And but the crab pot. Oh my God. And king crab legs.
I went to this restaurant bar in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Provincetown is like Lobsterville.
Oh,
like every restaurant serves lobster fresh right out of the ocean. And I will tell you, I had all sorts of lobster those 4 days that I was there. It was some of the best feeding I've ever done. Because at that point, you're not even eating.
No.
You're feeding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's so rich.
And none of the lobster had that, after a couple days, if it's shipped, it gets that seafood smell.
Yep.
See, that seafood smell just makes me want to vomit.
No, I know.
But it didn't have any of that. It had, it was like just all fresh and just fresh meat. Our last night there, I ordered a big lobster, man.
Yeah.
Like at least a 2-pound lobster.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't share.
No.
Hell
no.
I did not share.
I love lobster. We used to go when I lived down on the coast. I'd go over to Steveston and go on the docks when they were doing spot prawns.
Yeah.
And go buy fresh spot prawns off the boats that were coming in.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, I'm not a fan of the Dungeness crabs, though.
I find them to be too much work. I don't mind the taste of them, but it's just like, geez.
They got that seafood smell.
They can.
Yeah.
Get them fresh out of the water and then throw them into a pot or whatever you're going to do. You're usually pretty okay, but I just found it to be too much work. My grandmother, God rest her soul, my dad used to live over in Seashelt and at one point, and used to go out in the boat and do prawns and crab traps. And when my grandmother was out there, that's what they do. My grandfather would walk across low tide and rocks in his bare feet. His feet would be all cut up from walking on the rocks. And he was like 84 to get to the oyster beds. And he'd sit there and eat raw oysters. It's like, can't do it.
That's just wrong.
Nah, I can't do it.
No. Not a fan of that. Definitely not a fan of that.
Mm-mm. Most certainly not.
Well, guys, it's that time of the night.
Yeah.
Where we are going to say goodnight to all of you. And we got to start shutting this thing down right now.
Yep.
Because little Timmy, he's going to bail on me to go and to 7-Eleven, the jerk.
No, he's not going to 7-Eleven.
Yeah, because I'm a bad influence.
No, Timmy's going home and gonna get some sleep.
He going to crawl into bed with Mama,
Yeah.
and he's going to have impure thoughts of the ghost that night.
Oh, we got the ghost church tomorrow night.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Thank you tonight to Marty, Necessary Dialogue, Louis, Patrick. That would be Noble Patrick. And Louis again. Hat-trick for Louis tonight.
know, right?
Appreciate that. So thank you guys. Thank you. We'll talk soon. Gonna take a little break here. Make some stuff happen behind the scenes. I'll miss you guys, but don't worry, we'll be back very, very soon. Talk to you soon, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.